good afternoon. Welcome to Saturday. It is 12:51 p.m. on the East Coast, and we are live here on Saturday, September 13th, 2025. And this is the very first show I have done so far this month. Just been very, very busy right now and just getting a lot done in life. And I'm just happy to have an opportunity to do a show here this afternoon live on YouTube. It's a beautiful day out there. It's very nice. And looking forward to maybe getting out there at some point today, but I'm going to do that later. I got plenty of things to do. I got pretty much a 3 to 4 mile walk ahead of me today and some good stuff to do in the afternoon. I probably should hit the weights too for a change. It's been about a week since I've been able to hit the weight room. So I should probably do that soon. But great to have everybody here. I'm looking forward to this show. There's quite a bit of topics to go over. If you guys saw the header there or the headline image or the title of this show, there's a lot. There's a lot to go over here. Charlie Kirk, I'm going to talk about. I'm going to be talking about that. That's going to lead off the show. Then I'm going to be talking about Turtleboy at the Wilbur last night and go over some photos and some videos from last night. I want to talk about Karen Reed and her latest attempt to get her phones back. And then I'm going to move on to Kelsey Fitz Simmons in segment number 4 today. So we're going to have a 4-segment show. Kelsey Fitz Simmons is just to kind of give you guys some introduction on this. This is a story I'm going to begin following very soon here. Kelsey Fitz Simmons has been followed by the Young Jerks, followed by Melanie Little. Did a show this past week on Kelsey Fitz Simmons, and I truly believe for me, this is a story that I have interest in, and I am going to start talking about. My glasses are a little bit. 1 second, it's a little water dripping on it for some reason. The glare is in the house. What's going on, man? Hope you had a great night last night, dude. Saw some of the photos and videos. We're going to play some of those photos and videos of you and other folks from last night on that. I see True Crime Kangaroo is here. Andrea Clark is here. Darcy's here. Cynthia's here. Sorry. I always see the red logo, and I think Darcy immediately. Sorry, Cynthia. Don't take that to heart. We got Lauren Murray is in the house. It says, we missed you last night, Mazza. No, I definitely missed out on being there. I'll address that real quick because I'm going to address it later in the show, too. Very busy lately. I've had a lot of obligations to take care of, and I just couldn't buy a ticket in advance. Beyond that, with work, these are the list of excuses, I know. I would just put it this way. I would have been more able to go to it if it was on a Saturday than a Friday. And that's kind of really what kind of held me back from buying a ticket. And I can admit to you guys, I was actually around 5:30 last night on Ticketmaster, like, I wish I could go. But let me see what tickets are available. And at that point, it was resellers. But yeah, it would have been tough for me to get out there. But it was definitely like the fear of missing out was really strong last night because I'm like, I see everybody there. And I'm just like, I see the glare. I see Melanie Little. I see Nurse Kim. I see Tom CPU. I see Mark Betterow, Tim Bradle, Jess Machado, just all these folks there last night. And I'm like, oh, Kelly Reed. I'm like, oh my goodness, it was really tough to not be there for sure. But as always, I'm happy everybody had a great time. But I'll say this. I'm hoping that Turtleboy has a Halloween party this year because I had a lot of fun at that event last year, and if he's doing it again, I don't care. I'm gonna be at that event for sure. That's what I'm not gonna miss. But it sounds like it was a great night last night. Looks like Auntie Deb went live to recap the show last night, or maybe in the middle of the morning. There, I had a live to talk about the event last night. It was a sellout. And I think only reseller tickets were left at that point, but it looks like it was a great night. And I hope everybody. Actually, I heard Jess Machado was in the next. So she and her friend had driven in, and a truck, Cisco truck or something like that, had crashed into the front left side of the vehicle and had really done some significant damage. But I think Jess was the passenger. I think her friend was named Erin, was the driver. Both of them were safe. They had a fun night. They filed an insurance claim, all that. So they were safe. Yeah, that's on Jess Machado's Twitter page. They were in a white BMW, but they were safe. They're both fine. Just made that clear that they were both fine, but those photos were online last night. But it was definitely that's one of the craziest things sometimes about driving in the city is the chance that there just might be an incidental accident like that, which is really, really sometimes the risk of any city in our country. But it looks like it was certainly not, it was certainly the truck. It was like a truck, delivery truck, like, those trucks that escort, goods and all that. They to the restaurants or grocery markets or where, shipment trucks, typical 18 wheelers. That's the kind of vehicle it was. So they were good. So it just made it clear that she was all set. And that they're perfectly fine. So that's good to know. It's one thing we want is we always want people to get where they're going safely, and not, having to run the risk of accident. But even sometimes when an accident does happen, the next thing you want is to make sure that the people inside a vehicle are safe, and they're not suffering physical injuries, which is important. I don't want to know if I want to make this topic a subject, but just because I don't want to, discuss too further into it. But and like I said, Jess was very confident that they were successful, and they made it to the show last night and all that. But they had some pictures. Actually, I can show the pictures real quick. I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to make this too much of a topic, but I've kind of got curiosity from everyone here. So let's just get the pictures up, just to kind of just so everyone kind of is aware of what happened here. So here we go. Let's get the share screen. So just so you guys know that Jess is safe. So here we go. Jess said last night, she said, Boston gave me and Aaron an extra special welcome tonight. We are fine. And Aaron insisted on drinks at the Moxie to celebrate this new insurance claim. So it looks like it's a Cisco truck that, ran into them somehow here. And then this was the damage to the vehicle. A lot of front end damage here. So, and that appears to be Jess's friend, Aaron, right there. So they're going to file an insurance claim. Everybody's fine. But yeah, that caused that. I was shocked to see that last night, that news, but at least they're well. That's the most important part. So happy for that. So, all right. All good. So we're moving on here to topics. We're going to talk about Charlie Kirk. And we're going to get into that right now. This has been the predominant story of the past week. True Crime Kangaroo was like, I get it. LOL. Let's move on. Jess and friend are fine with the heart. There we go. Resistance to silence in the house. Cool. All right. So we got Charlie Kirk to discuss. My attitude towards this whole thing is from a non-political perspective. I think that this is I think this transcends politics, because essentially what this story tells me. Oh, you're good then, True Crime Kangaroo. No problem. To me, this transcends politics. And my attitude about this is, let's just say, for example, Charlie Kirk had the opposite political viewpoints, and he was shot and killed, right? Ultimately, what we saw was a person with political views, regardless of what they may be, who was shot and killed by a shooter who, it sounds like, actually, from what I've heard lately, is that the shooter actually had far right views, and that's what I'm starting to hear. I vaguely heard about that, but that's what I'm starting to hear. I believe the initial presumption was that this would have been a person with the opposite political views, but I think that this is a person that apparently had further right political views than Charlie Kirk. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I listened to Erica Kirk talk last night, and okay, I said somebody says that he might have had the opposite viewpoints. So, all right, so there's a lot of intertwined. So people are saying not true at all. So they might say that the person had left opposite viewpoints. Okay, I'll get back into that detail a little further on. But we'll talk about the heart of the matter here. Is that this is something that really, I honestly, for me, being someone from Massachusetts, got Boston Marathon vibes out of this. And even though that was a bombing, this was a shooting, there was a lot of comparative similarities to this, from this taking place at a public event. Basically, a person or persons being killed at a live event, right? And then ultimately the perpetrators getting away, and then state, local, and federal officials having to hold press conferences to acquire data, to acquire video, to then locate who that individual was. And the only thing this is the one thing I disagreed with about the whole investigation, was that they should, and this is just my opinion. So I just want to be clear here. They said that they were going to seek the death penalty publicly. The reason why I disagreed with them saying this at this particular time that they had said it was that the suspect was still at large at the time they said that they were going to seek the death penalty or inquire into it. Okay. The reason why I disagreed with them announcing that prior to the arrest of Tyler Robinson is based on what all of us saw here in Massachusetts back in 2013, where the Boston Marathon bombers were taking people hostage and were, detonating more bombs, got in a shootout in Watertown, Massachusetts, right? So that, for me, when I saw the suspect still at large, I don't think they should have announced that they were going to seek the death penalty prior to his arrest, because this potentially could have led to a very hostile situation. Now, God, thankfully, that did not happen. They were able to apprehend him, place him in custody without any issue. But this day, any day and age, really, you just never know if that particular individual at large hears the news that they're going to give him the death penalty potentially, is now going to become more hostile and maybe stand his ground in a shootout or kill himself or start taking people hostage. So that was the one thing I disagreed with how they announced that publicly. Everything else I thought they handled perfectly. I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist about the investigation, but I am questioning what the media told us. And this is from the perspective of, I find it hard to believe that they didn't know this suspect and who he was at a much earlier time than they had announced to the public. Oftentimes, like we saw in the Boston Marathon, they know more about this than they're leading on, or that they're letting the press know about it. And I am estimating that they probably knew who this suspect was in a matter of 4 to 12 to 16 hours. And they, even long before they released footage, I think possibly that's because they were still vetting and double checking, of course, the ins and outs, just to make sure that they actually had the right suspect. As we know, 2 persons of interest were arrested, one initially at the scene on campus, and then one at the second time later that night. That had happened. So they were vetting suspects, but I have to imagine that they got fingerprints on the building when he got down. And I'd have to imagine, this is my theory though. I don't think that if the feds knew who he was at a much earlier time than they let on, I would say that they might have done that on purpose, because they might have tried to see if he was working with anybody else, communicating with anybody else, and maybe they had a perimeter around his neighborhood or location surrounded at all times. And they just wanted to see if he was going to panic and communicate with anybody, and who his any people he was communicating with were, whatever that terminology is. So I once I was reading the announcements here. It looks like the Patriots made a trade, Polk in a 7th to the Saints for a 6th. Okay. All right. So like I said, I think they might have just been waiting a little bit, because, once again, if they know who the suspect is and they can kind of put him in a shadow or ghost controlled environment where the feds are really all around him at all times, they're watching him at all times, then I think that they might have just tried to see who his people were. So like I said, I question if they did, because I'm watching it the night before in the news, and I'm flipping through all the networks just to see, different perspectives. And they're saying, oh, they got the fingerprints. I'm like, well, how do the feds not know, facial recognition? How would they not know? How would they not know? So I just think that they probably knew who he was at an earlier time. I don't know. Maybe they knew about who he was in a matter of hours. Maybe it was a day. I don't know. But I just feel like they must have known who he was at an earlier time. That's just my thought. I see a lot of speculation about, because I have, a lot of friends, that have opinions. I love them. But I hear the different opinions that come out. Enemy countries or other countries. There's the Epstein, there's all these rumors that usually come about. I personally and I don't want to be, I don't want to run the risk of being limited minded by not having a conspiracy. But I truly, this is just my opinion at this time. And my opinions often change because I'm always quantifying and taking in new information. I'm always willing to have a theory, but also have alternative theories. So anything I ever say is not usually set in stone. So if I say, for example, what I'm going to say, which is I just truly believe this was a gunman that wanted to kill Charlie Kirk, grabbed a rifle, got on top of a building and shot him. I at this particular time, believe that right now, but like anything, if there's more information that comes out that tells me that particular belief that I have right now would be inaccurate or not fully realized, I'm willing to change that opinion down the road. So those are my thoughts on that. But at this time, I do just believe it was a single shooter. They might have had some people he was talking to on Discord that were like, maybe he got information. I do feel, this is a theory I have. This is a theory I do have is, damn it, I just lost the thought because I read about the plane on the radar comment. Nanya made a good, that was a theory that went out. I heard about that. There was a private jet that went out there. But you never know who that is. You never know who that is. Here's the thing. If the private jet went off the radar, he would have been on it. But because he's not on that, then it almost makes me think that, is it some form of like a political person, a politically affiliated person going off the radar to protect them? I don't know. So I just think that to some degree, I feel that the shooter had some kind of reconnaissance on this campus. So the night before, I was going to make a post on X on the MazzaMedia channel. I actually wrote it and deleted it, and I never posted it because, someone's saying the plane theory has been debunked. I think it's now almost, because the shooter was captured, it now is no longer whatnot. But I think that he must have had some kind of reconnaissance on this campus, because I was thinking to myself, the night before, I was kind of like everybody speculating. I decided to kill my speculation remark. And I said to myself, I wonder if he was there the day before, maybe he didn't climb the roof, but was there somebody with like a drone, like you could use a drone to fly up there? Like, was the tent set up the day before? Did someone have like a drone where they flew up to that shooting location and got an eagle eye shot of that tent to ensure that tent, because the shooter can't just get up on a roof, okay, and not have a bird's eye view of their target, which was Charlie Kirk, right? That shooter would have to know when he got up on that roof that when he got up there, he would have a proper view of Charlie. You know what I'm saying? So that's what makes me think that there was a level of reconnaissance to all of this, is that either somebody he was talking to said, hey, that roof on that location will be perfect, or or he went up there himself, or maybe was there somebody with a drone the day before that flew the drone up there to get the on-camera view. I don't know. But I think something in that neighborhood had to have happened. I mean, to think that this guy would, because you see the way he's walking away, using your eyeballs is one thing, Jay Cornish, but if you go up, if you look at it from the ground and you go up to the building, who's to say the tent wouldn't interfere with the shot? You'd have to know for a fact that shot would be there, especially since you saw the way he walked to the campus, had the rifle in his pants. That means he would have had to have walked to the campus with the rifle in his pants too. And to go through all that, I'm just thinking that there had to have been a level of preparation involved to ensure that shot would be there. So that's why I'm thinking that there was some kind of planning here strategically beyond just, beyond the guy just saying, I'm going to bring a bolt action rifle. I'm going to shoot it. Yeah. Okay, great. Jay Cornish. Thank you so much. All right. Appreciate it. All right. But yeah, I was shocked by this, and right. He knew exactly where he was going. That's what I think too. So like I said, I think this is I think one of the reasons why, if you're someone that holds political office right now, if you're someone that is a notable person with political opinion, that is deeply rooted on the left or the right, This is not a situation that you're like, oh boy, I'm happy that person of opposite opinion got shot and killed. Because the thing is, as we know, people get shot and killed in our country, right? We have seen politicians get shot and killed. One, I believe a Republican was shot at a baseball game. There have been Democrats shot, sometimes shot and killed, right? And this is what happens in our country. And beyond that, there's a lot of shooting, right? And beyond shooting, there's a lot of stabbing in our country, right? There's stabbing too. So this is not, there's a lot of murder. Boston Marathon attacks with pressure cookers. The woman was stabbed from the Ukraine, was stabbed on a subway. Was it a train? I was starting to follow that story, that I got caught up in the Charlie Kirk story. But, there is a lot of killing in our country. And I think that's why it's important that the people on the internet don't celebrate when someone they don't like is murdered, because you know that when one party sees someone on their side killed, it could then potentially trigger someone of the viewpoint that had someone on their side killed to now go out and suddenly kill a member of the opposite party. So I'm just not a fan of anyone that wants to celebrate somebody being murdered. Unless it's, unless you want to celebrate like when bin Laden was killed or whatnot, because of 9/11, right? Have at it. You know what I'm saying? Why not? You know what I'm saying? That's someone that was involved in some serious bullshit. We all know that. I mean, that's like a time for me where it's like, yeah, hit the streets and celebrate, like we all did in 2011. That's obviously fair game, right? Someone that's actually evil, that's a murderer, when one of the Boston Marathon bombers got killed in Watertown and then the other one got arrested, we went out and celebrated. Sure. You should celebrate people that are vicious, murdering, psycho sons of bitches being killed, right? But when it's someone like Charlie Kirk, or someone that's like the woman from Ukraine on a bus or a train, I think it was a train, we don't celebrate that in our country. We don't celebrate people that are nonviolent or not doing any kind of evil to other people. That is not something we celebrate. And as a result, people are getting, canceled and losing their jobs as a result. And if it was the opposite party, if Charlie, the opposite, the Democratic equivalent of Charlie Kirk was assassinated and people that had, right views, pro-right views, we're celebrating that person's murder, the same thing would be happening right now, right? Because this should be looked at not from a political side, but it should be looked at transparently from a non-political perspective, because this is about a American with an opinion that was not someone that went out killing people, that was not whatever, that was shot and killed, right? And was someone that was subject to debate. He always wanted to have debate. So I just don't think that we should root for, you look at John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, Martin Luther King, figures that were in office or political stature. You got John Lennon who got shot, right? You have many people that have been shot and killed that were public figures. You don't want to ever see that in our country because it number one, it upsets the country. And it's usually a bad thing. It's usually a very, very bad thing. It affects the narrative of the country. It affects the psyche of the country. And especially in this day and age. John F. Kennedy's assassination was just caught by one camera, the Zapruder footage, Zapruder, who was the film, happened to be recording. If not, that would have never been caught on tape. And nowadays, you get the digital age. There's cameras all over the place. You can see what happened to Charlie Kirk from multiple angles, and it's absolutely disturbing to see a man shot. I have seen the footage, and it's disturbing. It's disturbing seeing another human being killed. And I think, like a lot of people have said, if you do not like Charlie Kirk, debate him. Walk up to the microphone, tell him to go F himself if you want. Tell him I hate you and you if you want. You're free to do that. It's a free country. You can walk up to somebody and tell them, hey, you go yourself. I don't like you. I disagree with your opinions. I don't like your stance on this, and that. And I think you're whatever. Sure. That's to me, that's how a democracy should be is okay, fine. Chop it up with people. Tell them you don't like them. If you want to stand in the streets, if you're a right wing and you want to debate a Democrat, or if you're a Democrat, you want to debate a Republican, have at it. I'm all for, debating. I'm all for people stating their opinions. I know there's a lot of hostile topics in this country, right? When school shootings happen, the Second Amendment is a debate. When there's abortion's heavily. There's a lot of topics in our country that are very, very divisive topics, right? That we all, to various degrees, have opinions on. We often debate in our country which party we should vote for, right? We have people that want to vote for the Democrats. We have people that want to vote for the Republicans, right? We have independents that don't want to take a side, but will go out and vote for a party that they choose to feel it represents the country best for them at this time. So I think that, that's what our country should be all about is have your opinion, have your political believe your thought, whatever you believe it. You have that right to believe what you wish to believe and see things how you see things. And I see people all the time that I know that have opposite opinions or different opinions than mine. And sometimes I'm like, man, I just want to debate that person. I'm like, you know what? At the end of the day, they're going to have their opinion. They're not going to change their mind. I'm going to have my opinion. I'm not going to change my mind. The hell with it. What's the point in arguing, right? But I think that ultimately, that does not give you the right to kill somebody, to massacre, to assassinate somebody with a rifle. And that's, I think, what everybody, for the most part, it seems. I know there's some people out there that have celebrated Charlie Kirk. They don't like him, but I think that we shouldn't have an attitude where we're gonna become a country where we're gunning down people, where we're just shooting. Oh, we don't like you. Your opinions are different. Let me shoot you. And that's not how it should be. And I think that's what I think there's even though we've always been a country of political divide, I think that there's more, even though there are people that have views that are Democratic, I think there's a lot of Democratic people that are not happy about this, right? They don't believe in that either. But there's also people that don't like Charlie Kirk that might be Democratic that also are, they're happy about it. They're happy about the fact that he's dead. But I think that this should be looked at universally and not from a political side. Because again, all these public figures are at risk of being shot, whether you're a public commentator or you're someone in political office of either side. And I think that needs to be remembered, especially when something like this happens. And I don't usually talk politics. And when I do talk politics, I try to keep it 50-50. And I know that may upset one side or the other. I understand that. But sometimes I think the best way to talk about things is from a universal perspective. That's just the way I think. That's the way I like to keep it. I don't like to come out and be like this. I like to just be more, how can we bring a more, not to be, I just want to have more of a universal perspective on things. That's just my opinion. But I think that this transcends politics because a guy was shot and killed. It doesn't matter how old he is, 31, 21, 41, 51, 60, it doesn't matter. Okay? A man was shot and killed. This should have never happened. This was avoidable. And this shooter has taken away, not just a man's life, but he has taken away from a wife. He has taken away from 2 kids. And nobody should ever have to lose anybody at all. That should never happen in this country. And that's one of the things we always want to avoid at all costs is murder, killing, all that stuff. You just got no place for it. You always want to see it avoided at all costs. And unfortunately, it does happen. It is a reality. And it happened. And it's very sad to see. And regardless of political viewpoints, whether it was someone like Charlie Kirk on the opposite side, either or, it shouldn't have happened either way. And it's unacceptable. And this man, Tyler Robinson, deserves to be condemned. He needs to be condemned to the limit of the law, fullest extent of the law. And he needs to be condemned in hell. And I think he belongs in the very worst section, pit of hell, reserved for the most evil fucking people out there, quite honestly, because he shot and killed a man. And additionally, he shot and killed a man right in front of his wife and kids that are very young. And, I had this conversation just the other day. It's always tragic. If this had happened when his kids were 10 years older than they were right now, it still would have been tragic. But the thing is that these kids were robbed of the opportunity to know their father. And, given their ages, all their knowledge of their father is going to be through video and every recording he's ever done. That's how they're going to have to know their father now. No different than John F. Kennedy Jr. John F. Kennedy Jr. was very small when John F. Kennedy was killed and assassinated in 1963 in Dealey Plaza. And this young kid, John F. Kennedy Jr., never really knew his father, and all he had to go off of was a lot of footage. And I think that's the tragedy in all of this, is take the politics out, take his beliefs out, take his notoriety out of the question. At the end of the day, this is a guy who had a wife and kids. And a wife and kids are no longer without their husband and father. And that's absolutely disgusting. It's absolutely sickening. And it's absolutely unacceptable. This shouldn't happen, right? And that kid, Tyler Robinson, has disgraced himself, and he's disgraced his own family. I can't imagine being the father of Tyler Robinson and sitting there and saying, are you fucking telling me that you're the fucking son of a bitch that just shot him? Are you? I mean, if I was the father of this kid, I mean, that Robinson family is destroyed now too. They're destroyed now too. That father is now looking at his son like, are you kidding me? You're of all the whole country is talking about what happened, and you've done this. That's now, those parents now have to live in, or father at least has to live. I don't know too much about his family. Has to live in a situation now where people are going to walk up to him and say, you might have people that are judgmental. You might have people that are saying, like, I'm not going to see the father's perspective or innocence on this. They might just say, you probably knew something, or they might have people that are like, hey, look, sir, I understand that this is a bad situation. I'm sorry that your son made the decisions you did, but we don't reflect that on you. So you're going to have people that were, yes, the sheriff. You're going to have people that reflect that now on that family. And that's tough for that family, because that son has disgraced them. He has disgraced them. And now he's put that family in a position of notoriety where they could be either condemned or sympathized with as a family that had nothing to do with it. And that's very bad for that family. And that's really, really tragic as well. So looking at his own family, look what he's done to his family by making a decision that was ridiculous. And I just feel like with anything, I've just always strongly felt that because I'm one of the things I like about Charlie Kirk, this is a non-political statement. I like debate, or I like conversation. I like to sit down. Like I have, some of the people that are my closest friends, a lot of us have varying opinions on things, but we basically have our people that can just sit down and we can talk. Right. And we'll all sit there and we all have different opinions on everything, but we'll sit there because we all kind of are the kind of crew that are like different opinions, but we kind of like our network of different opinion people to kind of sit in a circle and just basically debate the living hell out of it. That's the kind of person I've always been, is I like to just sit there with people that have maybe differing views, have people that see things differently, but we're non-argumentative. We don't start saying, you're wrong. We don't start getting into it. And that's kind of how I keep it. We kind of like to just sit there and we'll, one of my friends said to me, he goes, man, like, we're different on things, but like, I can sit down and talk to you about this because I know you're not going to stick the middle finger up at me. I know you're not going to take it personal. It's yeah, exactly. Cause I like to hear multiple perspectives because I like to be, I want to hear people's different perspectives. That's just the way I am. And I hope people are like that too. I like to sit down and say, what does this person think? I have a theory, but what's your theory? Is my theory wrong? Could I amend my theory to see it? I like to think that way. And I don't always think that way, but I like to think that way because I think that seeing multiple perspectives can help you have a better perspective overall. So that's just how I keep it. That's how I've always kept it. And that's why I think this is so crazy, because a man has been shot for having an opinion. And I don't think anybody should take anybody's right away from having that opinion by executing them or assassinating them in any way, shape, or form. But I feel, like I said, I watched Erica's live statements last night. It's very tough. And quite honestly, I don't know how the hell she did it. I really don't know how she did it. I was thinking to myself the day this happened, I go, they must have sedated her. I don't know if they did or not, but she must have been sedated at some point. I just can't imagine, unless she's much stronger than I can possibly imagine, but just the shock and horror of all of that initially, I just can't believe. I would find it hard to believe that she was so strong and not to the point where they said, look, we need to sedate her right now and just put her at bed rest or something. Because I know, that was my own mother. My mother would have to be sedated for about 3 months minimum, and that's it. And that's it. Let's see what someone said here. Someone's coming at me pretty hard here. Brian McHugh, I don't think your comments are very necessary. You have your freedom to have your opinion, but I just don't like what you have to say there. I have the freedom to disagree with you, which is awesome, but that's a little rough, my man. That's an interesting comment right there. That's all I have to say. Just the second comment you made there relating to a certain comment, I clearly said that anybody, yeah, you're coming at me pretty hard. Okay. All right. You're coming at me pretty hard. Were you tuning in? Because we're going to get into it now. We're going to have a nice debate. You and I are going to have a spirited debate right now. Did you watch the part of the show earlier when I said that anybody that's ever been out there killing people, if they get assassinated, then we should all have no problem celebrating it? Which basically talks about people that perpetrated 9/11, people that perpetrated the Boston Marathon, anything like that. Did you hear me say earlier in the show that anybody that does evil, anybody that murders anybody, is something that we should not in any way, shape, or form ever condemn? So that's it. So Brian, you can have your freedom of your opinion. That's fine. But I don't think that you fully gravitated my perspective on this. I'm saying that Charlie Kirk, regardless of his political opinion, was not someone that was violent, was someone that did not deserve to be that, He doesn't deserve to get assassinated. You're comparing this to someone that's responsible for the murder of thousands of people. I am in no way saying that any individual that's gone out and murdered somebody or executed people or committed any massive war crime doesn't deserve what's coming to them. Because once you start to do what evil world leaders have done, that's insane. Yeah, but what you're comparing two different people, though, Brian. You're comparing someone that basically launched one of the largest wars in human history to someone that has an opinion, that sits in a chair at events on a college campus. And I don't believe that your comparison is in any way, shape, or form relative to one another. That's that. So you can sit in the comments, you can have your opinion, you're free to it. But I don't think that your comparison is in any way relative. Personally. You can say hate is hate all you want. You can say hate is hate all you want, but there is a significant difference between someone that has an opinion on how they see things, which is their First Amendment right in this country, versus someone that basically was responsible for the largest war, pretty much the largest war in human history today. So I think your comments, you're free to have your opinion, but there you go. So that's it, Brian. We're done talking with you. So that's all we got to say. But like I said, Brian can have his opinions. He's free to it. I'm not going to condemn him for it, but I am going to give my opinion when I don't feel like my opinion or my belief system is being properly properly interpreted in the comment section. So there we go. So that's that. So like I said, there's no place for this in that country, and all that. End of discussion. So unbelievable. And the comments are kind of, it looks like the comments are coming after you pretty hard now, Brian. So they're kind of coming at you pretty hard here. There's a lot of people coming at you right now for your remarks, sir. So that's interesting. So, like I said, my goodness gracious, I should have just let that comment go. I really should have, but what are you going to do? Oh boy. Oh my goodness. So there we go. So all right. Yeah, I should have just left it alone. I shouldn't have addressed that comment. I should have left it alone. But I just feel like if my opinion is being misconstrued, like when I see like Mazza, you're living in a bubble, or Mazza, you're this, it's like, no, maybe you're not understanding what I'm trying to say, especially when I'm trying to discuss an anti-violent message here. That's what I'm trying to go for. So there we go. So there we go. All right. So I appreciate everyone standing by. This is definitely a much more rougher around the edges episode of MazzaMedia than ever. And I'm going to do what the Glare did the other day when his show got all controversial. He's like, please subscribe. I remember the Glare did this. He's like, please subscribe. Please subscribe. So please subscribe to MazzaMedia, ladies and gentlemen. Please subscribe to MazzaMedia, ladies and gentlemen. Please like this channel. Please, please, please. MazzaMedia is begging for subscribers now. That's all right. We'll have fun. We'll have good fun. But I think at the end of the day, what's necessary in our country or in world is that nobody ever kills anybody. I think that's what we all never want to see in our country. We never want to see any violence. We never want to see anybody killed. But if evil ever tries to kill other people, we have to defend ourselves, right? We have to defend ourselves. If anybody's ever out there trying to kill people, hurt people, harm people, maim people, we should always be out there defending ourselves, and people should be defending themselves against anyone that ever tries to commit violence or evil against us. And I always think that defending yourself is a very important thing. So we pray for Charlie Kirk and his family. We pray for his wife, his kids, anybody that knew him, and we pray for everybody else out there. Protection for everybody, safety for everybody. That anybody that tries to, blah blah blah. So we always want to try to keep things cool. So that's all good. So we always pray for that in our country and all that. So all right, well, that's a pretty hot topic. I see some of the comments coming back. I don't know which comments are. Yeah, good point. Good point, Karen. No, you got it. All right, we'll keep it at this for now. So we're going to transition now. Let's talk about something a little bit less hot right now, because it got hot in this show. I got to say, I'm thankful that we had this conversation. And again, people are always going to have differing opinions, various opinions. We've seen that in the chat. That's going to happen. We respect those opinions nonetheless, right? We don't respect the opinions. We respect everybody's right to an opinion. There we go. All right. So let's talk about some other things here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk about the Wilbur Theater last night. Let's talk about Turtleboy. Let's talk about everything that went on there. First of all, I was not able to attend last night. I wanted to attend, of course, but I have had a lot going on right now, more than I can possibly fathom. And it's been very busy for me. So I did not commit to buying a ticket early. I had to see how my week looked. And then, I talked with a few people. A lot of people were asking me if I was coming. I get a lot of texts, private messages. Massey, coming. I'm like, I don't know. I want to, but I don't think I'm going to be able to make it. It's doubtful. But yeah, I've had a lot of scheduling going on, yard work, all this stuff. I don't want to give a list of excuses and sound like I'm like, well, I had this, and they had a lunch, but I at the end of the day, I just couldn't make it. But at the end of the day, it looks like it was an incredible show, which was absolutely the most important thing. Scott McGinnis is in the chat. He says it was a blast. True Crime Kangaroo, packed theater, amazing atmosphere. And let's get a comment from True Crime Kangaroo. You're a good egg, Mazza. Well, I didn't know I was an egg, but that's pretty cool because I had eggs for breakfast this morning. Thank you so much, True Crime Kangaroo, for that super chat there. Thank you. I appreciate it. But yes, This is an event I definitely wish I could have been at. I just think that if it was on a Saturday like today, I would have had a much higher chance of making it out. Fridays are busy for me, and it was just very difficult, unfortunately. So, like I said, I was that fear of missing out was like this, and like I said, I was looking at the Ticketmaster like at like 5:30. I'm like, I wish I could go. I wish I could go. I don't think I'm going to be able to make it still, but I wish I could go. And it was tough to be there. Not to be there. I'm sorry. It was tough not to be there. It was tough to see all the excitement and just everybody having a great time. Wrestler's Mom. I like the name, Wrestler's Mom. I like wrestling. I wish I was there. Yeah, fear of missing out was strong, that's for sure. Especially, when you see a lot of good people that are there, and you just see the general excitement of everything that went on last night. So we're going to take a look at some of the footage from last night that was played on X. And we're going to look at some of that, ladies and gentlemen, right now. So let's get that shared. Yeah, it would have been awesome to be here. And Aiden definitely deserved this opportunity. I'm glad he made it. Having Auntie Deb as the host is always a good call too. You just know Auntie Deb's going to bring, I think what's great about Auntie Deb is you're going to get the range of the ability to hold a conversation, the ability to host, the ability to perform, the ability to ask serious questions as well as comedic questions. So I don't know what the content or subject matter was of the show all the way through, but this definitely seemed like it was a raucous atmosphere last night for sure. 3 stories, it looks like here. So we got the lower section, the middle balcony, and then the lower balcony and the upper balcony. And this is the footage. This footage was provided by, let's see, Purple Kool-Aid Drinker on X. This is the reaction when the first of the 2 attorneys, Tim Bradle, arrives at the Wilbur. And here we go. That's awesome. Big cheer for him. Big cheer for him, which is absolutely awesome. You got to appreciate the love and respect for attorney Tim Bradle, who's not only representing Turtleboy, but he's representing Kelsey Fitz Simmons. We're going to be talking about Kelsey Fitz Simmons later in our show. But this was a packed house last night. Great atmosphere. A lot of familiar faces there as well. And it's just good to see everybody coming out in support of Aiden, which is really, really awesome. And they got the sellout, which is awesome. And the sellout, it took some time, but usually with a lot of events, it can take time to get the ladder seats that are kind of still out there taken care of with ticket purchases. And then you never know if you have people that are last minute as well that are not sure if they can actually go to the event till the day of the event. That might say, oh, great, I can go. Let me buy a ticket right now. And that's fantastic. And we're glad that Aiden and Auntie Deb had a fantastic performance or show last night, that this was a sellout for them. They got the crowd there, and the crowd had a great time. Everybody got to get out there, which is absolutely fantastic. So we're happy for that. Definitely excited. Someone says, were there any trolls causing problems last night? Not that I've heard from. Not that I've heard from at all. So that's all. I haven't heard anything on that whatsoever. So that was Tim Bradle's arrival. Really good atmosphere. Here's a picture of Aiden right there, and he kind of looks like he's The Rock. Like The Rock always has the microphone, and then he talks about the people. If you remember The Rock when he used to wrestle back in the 90s and early 2000s. If you smell what The Rock is cooking, if you smell what Turtleboy is cooking right there. And you got Aiden there. Happy about this. Aiden should be happy about this for himself. He is, I think despite everything he's done, it's come at a price for him in terms of legal matters. And I think it's very much a fulfilling and inspiring experience for him to have people come out in numbers, pay to be there, pay good money to be there, take time on a Friday night to get out to Boston, probably pay for parking too, and be there in support of him in his efforts and everything he's done to raise awareness for Karen Read. And for someone like myself, I came into following the Karen Read case because of Aiden, because I heard about his story and the stories he was writing about her, and was able to, talk about this because I learned about this through him. And I think that when you look at the money my show has raised, this money, the show that I've hosted, I want to rephrase that. When you look at the fundraisers that have been hosted on my show, that have featured many guests that have followed this case as well, when you take into account all the people that have watched this show and then gave money to Karen Read to contribute to those fundraisers, it's really because Aiden, I got to see the story through his postings. So it's my show has been a branch of Aiden's work, one of the branches, and we all are a branch. Anyone that learned about this through Aiden has become a branch of what, he got out there, what he popularized. So that's very important, that people support Aiden. And we should remind everybody that his defense link is in the chat right now. And also Mike Crawford from the Young Jerks defense link is in the chat right now. If you guys want to make a donation, please go right ahead and do that. Help out Aiden, help out Mike Crawford from the Young Jerks, support them and help them in their matters. I think that these guys have been fantastic for being justice warriors. And Aiden, Aiden could have backed down. He had that choice to back down or plea out. He never did that. He never plead out. He got out of jail 60 days and did what he needed to do to, continue to fight. He could have backed down. He could have let him scare him off, but he didn't allow that. He's decided to stand tall and stand proudly and not be pushed away, not be scared off. And I think that there's a lot of power in that. And I think that's extremely important. And he deserves to have a show for himself to kind of, entertain and have a good time and have a nice function with many people, all the people there that are supporters. And I think that's very good. And definitely fear of missing out was strong. That's for sure. It would have been great to be there. But hey, the Halloween party may be happening in a month. And if that's going to happen, then may as well go, right? That'll be good. So here we go. That's a nice picture of Aiden there celebrating a fun night. Here's a video from outside. Purple Kool-Aid drinker had a lot of videos last night. This is a video. We're going to play basically Where's Waldo? So what we're going to do is we're going to play this video. And in the comments, you guys are going to start to name off who you see in this video. So let's just see what we got here. So let's play this video. And let's just see who's in the comments here. Who we can guess we're seeing in the comments.
Yay, cupcake! Johnny, better roll. There's cupcake. We got everybody out here.
That was so funny. People like you saying. Poor guy.
All right, so I see Tommy. I see Tim Bradle right there. There's Melanie Little right there. I always gonna say when you see I've only seen Melanie Little in person one time, and it's always her appearances are so rare that it's oh my God, it's Melanie Little. You kind of like, oh my God, it's Melanie. It's like, wow, seeing Melanie Little in person and what a job she did covering this case and many other cases. You got to definitely give Melanie a lot of love and respect, and really a channel that is already huge, but she is going to get only bigger and bigger in the next couple months to years, quite honestly, with her ability to cover Karen Read and multiple other cases. Melanie Little is, she's only going to get her channel is only going to get more and more expensive. If her channel doubles in size in the next year or two, I wouldn't even be shocked. Not shocked at all.
Yay, cupcake.
He says, "Yay, cupcake." Who else here? Let's see. There's Mark Betterow right there. Someone was saying Mark Betterow was swarmed by ladies all night long last night, which was hilarious. It's good to see Mark Betterow in person. I got a message this morning telling me, and they know who they are, that Mark Betterow is in rare form. And I responded, "Oh, yeah, Mark Betterow in rare form is always funny to see." There's no question at that at all. Now, someone's saying that someone threw a drink at Mark Betterow. Is that true? Is there any the security was good last night. That's good. That's always important, as we know all too well. Someone says someone threw a drink at Betterow. Why? Is that something you saw in the video, or I'm not sure what happened there, but I don't think that's Nurse Kim. Is this Nurse Kim here? I'm not sure if that's Nurse Kim there, but Nurse Kim was there last night. Was certainly there. There's Tommy's CPU with a nice fresh haircut right there. Someone said it in the chat. Okay. He was hit by whiskey in the face, but they didn't mean to hit them, in Lemonade says. Okay, so maybe that's what happened. It just, sometimes if that's what happened, the way it can be in cramped areas. There can be, someone said intended for someone else. I'm going to stay off it if I don't know all the details, but sometimes in crowded spaces that can happen. But we don't want to see Mark Betterow. Nobody throw alcohol in Mark Betterow's face ever. Stop it. That's my guy. That's our guy. We love Mark Betterow. Yeah, the full Boston treatment. Mark Betterow is our guy. We love him. Mark's the man. Tommy CPU, fresh haircut there. I believe he was live last night. He was streaming live.
Johnny.
And then there's Mark Betterow. And Melanie. And that's
everybody out here.
Kelly Reed was nearby in this video.
That was so funny. People like you saying.
I always like to see the folks that maybe have never met anyone in person that they've always looked to meet. Like if you've never seen Betterow before, or Aiden before, or anyone before, I always like to see the folks that get to see them for the first time. That's always fantastic to see. People kind of have that opportunity. Just curious, do you think sharing some of Charlie Kirk's statements is celebrating? I think some are confusing the two. I don't get that question, Kim. You don't need to send another super chat, but if you want to just touch up your comment in the comments to help me understand that would be great. You said, do you think sharing some of Charlie Kirk's statements is celebrating? I think some are confusing the two. I don't understand the question, Kim. I'll try to look for it in the comments here, but I don't understand it enough to answer it. I don't want to start to answer it too if I don't get enough of it. So, yeah, I know we have a true crime kangaroo. I think you're from Australia, so that's a long trip. That's a long trip. That's you're talking a continent or two, just to get up to maybe 2 to 3 continent distances. I don't know if the Halloween party is happening yet. I'm waiting on an announcement to see if Aiden's going to do it. We'll see. But I'll see. We'll see. I'll be monitoring to see if they're going to do it this year. They did it in 2023 and in 2024, and I'd imagine I'm hoping they'll do it this year. I'm hoping to be at that party. That would be great. And then Kim, just rephrase your question for me when you have an opportunity. I'll try to answer it and not miss the comment in the chat either.
Yay, cupcake.
So, so people get to see Melanie Little. I'd imagine most people have never seen her in person before. So that's awesome. That's definitely awesome. Someone said she was like an actress there, like a movie actress. That's awesome. Yeah, Microdots was there. Galera was there. Nurse Kim was there. It was definitely very notable group of people last night, which is fantastic to see everybody showing out. Kelly Reed there as well. This is the Galera on Twitter. And it looks like they had, I'll post First picture. They had a nice dinner for themselves last night. There is Melanie Little. And then we got Kelly Reed. And then we have Mark Betterow. And then we have the Glare. All in the house and definitely up Kim Neighbor. Let's see. Well, he made some very comments. I don't believe he was a good guy, although I condemn the horrific violence. I think, like, at the end of the day, Kim, I think that ultimately, when it comes to Charlie Kirk, I think that we have to say, non-politically, regardless of any opinions he may have had, he didn't deserve to get shot and killed. I think that that's the, regardless of anybody's perspective or opinion on his opinions or comments, that he didn't deserve to get killed. So, like you said, you don't believe he was a good guy. That is your opinion, and that's fine. But like you said, I think your last points, what matters the most is, although you do condemn the horrific violence. And I think that last comment, regardless of anybody's opinions on Charlie Kirk, I think that the last comment that you made is what matters, is that you condemn the horrific violence because it's not justified. And I think that's the way it should be looked at, is that regardless of your opinion, of his opinions or opinion of him, he did not deserve to get shot and killed or be assassinated like that. I think that's universally should be the agreed upon opinion, whether everybody liked his opinions or hated his opinions or thought he was a good guy or did not. No one deserves to get killed, right? I think that's where we all stand. All right. Thank you for your super chat, Kim, and we'll just continue on here. So it looks like a great night here. The Glare, whining and dining with some good people. Looks like they got some macaroni and cheese and some other good stuff there. And looks good to see everybody having a good time. No, you're welcome, Kim. We got an answer for your question. Exactly. So, yes, and there's no example. So we just, like I said, we want to just, I just want to say, hey, everybody's entitled to their opinion of any one individual, but I think the ultimate argument is that we should condemn violence in that matter. So yeah, great dinner there. It's good to see the Glare in town. Mark Betterow in town, Kelly there, and of course Kelly. We don't want to say she's in town because she's a Massachusetts person, right? We believe, and then Melanie Little, and Melanie Little in the house as well, and that's all good. So good stuff there, great there, and all good stuff. So yes, well, I wasn't invited, or let me put it this way. Well, I was not reached out to about attending. That is none of my concern. I think that. That's not a concern of mine. I'm grateful that people feel that way, and thank you. But I don't want to ever feel entitled to be invited to anything. I'm glad everybody had a great night. I just want to have that opinion. I'm thankful that everyone had a great night last night, and that's fine. Like I said, I didn't get an invite. That's not my concern. If I was going to go, I would have paid for my own ticket. And I would have done it that way, and I would have never asked for a free ticket or anything. I would have gone and paid my way in. And that's how I would have done it. But I thank you for your thoughts there. That you're grateful for my fundraising and support. I thank you for that greatly. But from my perspective, I have no opinion. I'm cool. Like, they don't need, no one's entitled to reach out to me to invite me to anything. And I have no negative opinion of that. And furthermore, like I said, if I was able to go, I would have bought a ticket. No problem at all. So those are my thoughts on that. I just feel like, every time there's an event, I should pay for my ticket and, go there if I'm able to. But in this case, I was not able to make it. But I appreciate that everybody had a great time, and I'm thankful for Aiden having a fantastic event. And I think he deserves to have a great event. And again, his defense fund is in the chat, as well as Mike from the Young Jerks. You guys want to get some money out to them to help them, definitely do. And these are big events too. You're not going to be able to think of everybody to say, oh, let me get an invite to everybody. So it's not, for me, I appreciate anybody that believes that or has that opinion. I appreciate that. But for me, I don't want to ever feel entitled to anything. That's just my stance on it. And my attitude is just to support again. So, all right, I made my point. I'm probably repeating it 6 or 7 times, but it's all good. It's all good. And nobody should ever walk away feeling like Mazza didn't get an invite. This is an outrage. Don't feel like that. Please don't feel like that at all. Don't ever feel that way. This is not something that should be This should not be a controversy. That's not something that should ever be a controversy. It's not. I am not entitled to any invites. I should be able to pay my way for a ticket if I'm able to make it. That's where that begins and ends. So I just want to say that too. But this is great. I'm happy for everybody that was there. This is fantastic. Great to see the folks there. This is another video of. Here is Mark Betterow and Melanie Little. And let me get the read up here. I think this is Purple Kool-Aid that dropped this video. No, this is Jenny. Jenny's a very wonderful woman. Everyone lost it when Melanie Little, the glare, Mark Betterow walked in before the show. El Jefe hit us with the let's F and go, and Melanie Def looked up at me at the end. So much love in the room last night. This is awesome. So here's everybody coming in, having a good time. Kelly Reed gets a big hug. Real big hug. And you gotta love how Glare says you wouldn't have needed a ticket. Glaire's like, you could have just walked up to the door, man. Just walk up to the door. They're like, hey, that's Mazza, let him in. But I don't, like I said, I don't want to walk up to the door and get in for free. I feel like, I would have had to have gone online. Like, I can't remember what event it was, but they tried to get me there for free, and they said just come for free, and I ended up going online and giving a donation on the link for like the exact value. But absolutely, that's all good. But yeah, that's all good. That's all right. I like what you said, dude. You wouldn't have needed a ticket. I'm glad you're in the comments right now because I love the way you take to the crowd here. Well, you're kind of like an NFL player or a pro wrestler, all hyped up by the crowd, and I love it. Right there in the bottom is the glare. Look at him. Pumping up the crowd. Let's effing go. I love how the glare is kind of going full Tom Brady there, which is fantastic. Okay, kind of channeling some New England, We have adopted the glare into Massachusetts and New England. He's our guy. We love him. Everybody, we adopted everybody. Love it. And I like Melanie Little's posture here. She's got the free Karen Reed, I love you signal going, kind of doing a wave when she does it. That's really cool. And then you got Mark Betterow. He's kind of just chill. Mark Betterow's just kind of chill here. He's just kind of like, yeah, we're good. We're here. I love it. It's good. This is exciting. I'm happy for everybody. This is fantastic. I love it. I love the contrast in Glare and Mark, where Glare's like taking on the crowd with celebration, and Mark's kind of like just chill. Awesome. Awesome stuff. Awesome. You got to love the energy and excitement there. I bet. I saw that we played the video earlier of Bradel's arrival, and it was awesome. The crowd was going absolutely nuts. That was fantastic. And like I said, well, I'm happy that everybody there that's ever aspired to just kind of run into you or Mark or Nurse Kim or Melanie or Kelly or Aiden or Auntie Deb or just even someone they haven't seen yet that they know. It's awesome. It's fantastic to see this kind of energy, there, and just everyone to get to meet. Like I'm always excited. Like people are like, I have people walk up to me like, "Hey, Maz, I love you. I watch you all the time." Like, I don't know you, but let's freaking hug. Like I'm kind of like that sometimes. That's just awesome. It's great. It's great for everybody, and everybody deserves this. Everybody's put in so much time and effort on Turtleboy, Karen Reed, and it's great to have such an event like this where everybody can kind of all that. Oh man, roasting Aiden must be fun though. Yeah, that must have been fun though, man. It didn't feel right. Yeah. That's awesome, dude. But yeah, that's just a great time. It's always great to have you up here, Will, by the way. Just, we get to only see you every so often, but you've made a lot of trips up here, man. We appreciate you for that. You've really become a part of our state-based community here in Massachusetts. And it's been awesome. It's been really awesome, man, to just have, you kind of really join us in our efforts here in Massachusetts. And I think, like a lot of times too, and I think this has been your perspective on things or viewpoint, has been that, you also see this beyond Massachusetts, meaning this is something that could happen in your state or any other state as well. And it's important for us to take on these matters, regardless of what state we live in. And this has also been shared, as we know, from people that are not even from the United States. And Nurse Kim was great. Was she on stage as well last night? That's awesome. Yes, and yes, JFK, Kevin James were outside last night. That's fantastic. Great crew there. The Kev Shuffle is taking the internet by storm, which is awesome. Glare and Kev kind of dancing together recently on a video was absolutely hilarious, which is awesome. So it's great. Like I said, if fear of missing out strong within me right now, it's definitely tough. It's like I said last night, even though I knew I wasn't going to be able to make it, I'm sitting there looking at Ticketmaster, like dreaming of buying a ticket and coming. But I'm happy. This is great. And I love the excitement. The energy is fantastic. And it looks like the venue, the Wilbur Theater, being an extremely, extremely notable venue in Boston. It looks like this is a very wonderful very wonderful venue. Now, someone said White Claws were $32 for two White Claws last night. Wow. That's no joke right there. $32, so $16 a White Claw. That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. The energy is powerful in this video, man. I'll tell you. That is awesome, dude. Yeah, that's a lot of money. They got these venues. They want to get their money too. They're charging you that convenience fee, unfortunately, at these venues. But that's the way it is. You go to a sports game or whatnot. You're always going to have prices that are a lot higher than you're going to see. These venues have to make their money to stay in business. Especially being in Boston. I'm not trying to justify their prices, but when you're in Boston, it's not a cheap place to run a venue in either, which is kind of rough. So. That's a good video there. Enjoyed that. Let's see. Do we have anything else? Is this it? Is that it? Let's see. Let's see. I think that's it. All right. That's about it. So we'll stop sharing on that. That was awesome. That was awesome as hell. Let's see. We got $24 for double captains. I'll be honest with you, I don't even know what the hell that is. I think that's that Captain alcohol. I don't know my alcohol that way. I'll never make it as a bartender. $15 for a vodka cranberry. $14 for the vodka and $1 for the cranberry, I'm guessing. Prices are not abnormal. Someone asked, was there a 2-drink minimum last night? Something tells me no. That's awesome. Yeah. It is wonderful to see people there. Absolutely. I wonder if there'll be probably some footage at some point. It looks like there was a professional crew last night there that was filming and was going around probably filming last night to get some professional footage for the event, which is good. Oh, we have another video here. Let's take a look. This is a message. Let's read this message from Aiden, shall we? Let's take a look at this while we're on the subject still. $7 for a ginger ale, $6 for a water. Oh, my goodness. Whew. Wow. Thank you so much, Will. I appreciate that, man, greatly. Definitely appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. Definitely appreciate that comment right there. 1 second. Appreciate that. 1 second. Oh, here we go. Let's go back to my normal view. I don't like the way my views shifted on the screen here. All right, it should be good. Thank you, man. Well, thank you from the bottom of my heart for that comment, man. You said, Mazza was missed. You being there would have been the shit. We love you. Back at you, brother. My man. My man, the glare right there. Always good to see you, man. Yeah, it's oh, yep. Aiden's documentary crew was filming last night. That's good. That's a good thing to have that done. Caroline says, me too, Mazza. My son had his homecoming game, so I was holding out to see if I'd be able to make it. That's right. High school football is back. Friday Night Lights are back here in the state of Massachusetts. So that's great. M. Sissy says, I would have loved to see you there, Mazza, vibing and taking pics. Yeah, I love the energy. I do well in large environments too. I always kind of, maybe being a basketball player, used to crowds and always have like a good time. Even though I used to always claim I don't like large crowds, I always find out when I'm in a large crowd, I have fun. That's funny, but no, that's good. This energy is good. We got another video here from Aiden. Let's read Aiden's article and let's take a look at what was said here. Let's see. All right, let's share the screen again. It's great to be back doing a show, by the way. This is my first show that I've hosted in about 13 days. Okay. Up, we went back to the top here. Up more. We have some more pictures here. Boston Brandy in the house. Erica Walsh was there too. And here we are. All right. Aiden says, I'm just seeing this post. Oh, it just got posted 26 minutes ago. Last night was one of the awesomest nights of my life. We sold out the Wilbur. That's an extremely high accomplishment. I mean, take that one and put that one in your trophy case, Aiden. That's a big accomplishment right there. Selling out the Wilbur Theater is no joke. You know, that's no joke at all, which means if you sell it out once, you can sell it out twice. You know what I mean? That's usually the rule of thumb. And may even be able to go to a larger theater, too, at some point in the future. Or larger venue. The crowd was electric. It was our first real live celebration of the acquittal of Karen Reed. This is what I dreamed about to get me through the 60 days sitting in a jail cell alone. It was a visual representation of the victory of good over evil. I agree wholeheartedly on that. On all of this, really, but that specifically, it was a visual representation of seeing people get out there and saying, we won. I think Donatello said in one of the Ninja Turtle movies when I was a kid, I win, you lose. I think it was the second Ninja Turtles movie. I'm probably one of the 5 people that's seen that movie. It was great meeting, or one of the 5 people that's probably watched that movie in the last 5 years. It was great meeting so many of you who have supported me and Karen through some tough times. Thank you to everyone who came, and thank you to the Wilbur for allowing us to perform at your historic venue and not giving into the online mob who demanded the show be canceled. And we all know that story, don't we? That there was a significant effort to try to get this show canceled last night. Many people emailing, online petitioning, trying to get this show canceled in any way, shape, or form, and they did not succeed. They did not win. And Aiden was able to have his show and host his show, and definitely a lot of respect to the Wilbur Theater for not giving in, for ignoring those emails and messages and the online matters, and having an opportunity to simply just say, hey, look, we're gonna go on with this show. We've agreed to have Aiden here. And regardless of comments that were made about him by another content creator, we're brushing this aside. We're going to fulfill our commitment and continue on with the show. And I think that's fantastic. So we're happy about that for Aiden as well. And that's absolutely fantastic. So let me just check one thing here. I'm just going to check one thing here. We're going to transition to the video here in just a moment. So I'm just going to check. I'm just checking the broadcast for a second. I'm concerned that there is a lag. I'm not seeing any reports, but let's just take a look. If you guys see it, the show is coming through perfectly fine, just let me know. I just want to take a quick check. Looks like it's good. It looks like it's going through just fine. Okay, perfect. All right. So, actually, that's a question for the chat. Let's ask this one. Did Jimmy imitate Judge Beverly Cannoni at all, or any other judge for that matter? If anybody knows the answer to that, let us know. There was a karaoke song at the end. That must have been hilarious. The Antis couldn't even fill a school bus. Well, I'll do you one better, Lauren J. Not only can they not fill a school bus, they wouldn't even show up to go on the bus in the first place, meaning the people that would have organized the event, because we all know that they've organized events in the past and no-showed their own events, haven't they? Jimmy did not dress as the judge. Okay. All right, here we go. All right, so let's take a look at the video.
So we got the balcony. There we go. There we go.
Put your phones away, says.
So we got the balcony. There we go. There we go.
Put your phones away, children. Let's go. Awesome. That's great. Yeah, I think Aiden wanted to have a no recording policy last night just because it would maintain the, it's an exclusive event and you want to maintain that, which is fantastic. So that's good. All right. Okay. So that is the end of segment 2. Turtleboy at the Wilbur. Glad that went very well. Turtleboy's defense link. Pin to the chat. Make a donation to him today. The Young Jerks, Mike Crawford's link also pinned to the chat. Make a donation to him today if you're able as well. Just want to kind of help these guys in the best of their ability to have the best case chance to win. They'll win, but we want to make sure that they're financially backed as well. Jimmy made some jokes about dressing as Bev at the beginning of the show. That's funny. That's funny. That's awesome. I'm sure Jimmy must have had a great. Jimmy must have. I'm more than confident Jimmy must have. He must have just been firing on all cylinders last night. I mean, it's kind of. Let's be honest. That's a tailor-made event for Jimmy. I think that is made for being on stage, performing, entertaining, making jokes. He's a full throttle entertainer, and also he knows all the information about all the cases as well. So that's absolutely fantastic to just see him have that opportunity last night to get his name out there, and someone that was really rising, over time, and in the first trial, and then exploded, towards the end of the first trial, and just kind of really got his name out there more and more. And has just done a fantastic job of captivating an audience and really just getting himself out there. So I'm very happy for his opportunity last night to host the show and perform and have a good time. So we're happy for everybody that got an opportunity to perform on stage, be there, be in attendance. It's fantastic stuff and great stuff. So let's talk about. He came on at 3:00 when he returned from the encore. I think he was live last night in the middle of the morning, wasn't he? Yeah, I think he was live in the middle of the morning. That's awesome. All right, we are switching gears. We're going to talk. We've talked about Aiden, and we mentioned Karen Reed just a little bit. Now we're going to transition into talking about Karen Reed and the latest news from Ted Daniels. So Karen Reed is fighting. Karen Reed is fighting to get her phones back. So she's trying to regain her phones in an open investigation. Let me just adjust there we go. That's a much better view. Okay, let's share the screen. All right, let's take a look. Okay, here we go. All right, and let me minimize myself. I'm going to put myself, actually the corner shot's not going to be too good for this, is it? Oh, there might be a way around it. Let's see. Okay, we're going to have to go back to the other view. All right, let's go back to this. Nope, not that view, this view. That's the view. Okay, that's the view we want. All right, now let's do this. Let's zoom in just a little bit more. All right, now let's take a look at how this looks on screen. Much better. There we go. All right, here we go. Dedham, Massachusetts. Karen Reed's legal battles continue as she attempts to retrieve 2 cell phones still being held by authorities, even after her Lexus was returned. Court documents reveal a special prosecutor hired by Norfolk County District Attorney Michael Morrissey wants to examine the phones as a part of an ongoing investigation. The phones were initially seized by state police in January 2024 during an attempt to indict Reed and Worcester-based content creator Aidan Carney, aka Turtleboy, on charges related to witness intimidation. As 25 Investigates reported, a grand jury blocked the indictments. However, Special Prosecutor Robert Cosgrove appears to be continuing the investigation. All right, there we go. A little frozen here. One moment, folks. I might be frozen, but just it'll take a moment. Okay. And I should be returning any minute now. System's having a little bit of a meltdown. We are experiencing technical difficulties here on MazzaMedia, and we'll be right back with you shortly. Here's a commercial break. All right. There we go. All right, the ads are populating more. Let's see. Do we go all the way to the bottom? Oh, you know what? I never talked about Kelly Dever, did I? I never even added that to my rundown sheet because I have so many topics. 1 second. Rebooting here. Let's go back. Let's go back to where it all began. Okay, here we go. All right, we should be back and running again. Sorry about that, folks. Kelly Reed is in the house. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Kelly Reed. Looks like she had a fantastic night last night. If her and Melanie Little are not besties at this point, I think we'll all be disappointed because I think we definitely agree that Melanie Little and Kelly Reed being besties would be a fantastic duo, as would the Glare and Betero. So a lot of awesome duos out there, but awesome to see Kelly out there having a great night last night. Congratulations to the Reed family once again on their big victory, defeating the forces of evil and over the course of 2 trials. So congratulations to Kelly, and shout out to the entire Reed family as well. I hope they enjoyed this summer as much as possible to the fullest. As we all know, they get to enjoy the summer this year for a change, unlike last summer where they were preparing for a second trial once again. Thank you, Kelly, so much. I appreciate that. You are the best. Cousin of the Year, 3 years in a row, or is it 4 years in a row now? We're just gonna keep giving you the honorary Cousin of the Year award all the time. So that's awesome, Kelly. And then someone says, Kelly Reed, you looked good on the photos at the Wilbur. That's a very nice comment there for Kelly. Awesome comment. Thank you so much, Pat. Appreciate that. She says, thank you to everybody as well. Melanie is so, I'm not going to read that comment to pick on Betero. I love my man, Mark Betero. All right. I'm going to leave that comment alone, Phoebe. We love Mark Betero. We love the man. All right. Let's see if my system's back up now. Okay. All right. So let's see where we left up. The read more button got me. Okay. Here we go. Let's double check this. We got a lot of ads. Okay. This is about Cosgrove. All right, let's get back to sorts. All right, here we go. Focus, Mazza, focus. All right, Aidan Carney had previously been indicted in 2023 for witness intimidation and spent 60 days in jail prior to the failed attempt to indict him and Karen Reed together. In an August 28th court filing, less than 2 months after Reed was acquitted in the murder of John O'Keefe, Cosgrove asked the judge to order Reed to provide any passwords or other information needed to access to iPhones. Cosgrove is also requesting she identify any communications protected by attorney-client privilege. And Karen Reed, as you can imagine, is challenging this request. Are you guys sick and tired of all of this stuff? Or is it just me? Just the never-ending, infinite witch hunt of Karen Reed and Aidan Carney. And it's just kind of sickening to see it. They just won't give her back her phones. I'm actually happy they gave her back her vehicle. And it's fantastic that a taillight's now back. And that's fantastic. That was long overdue. To actually get her Lexus back, my goodness gracious. I'm actually still shocked they gave it back because I thought they were going to wait till the year 2037 before they gave her back her Lexus. But I'm happy she got that back. And yeah, you're right. Just me. You're absolutely correct. She says, I'm fed up. They need to move on. They all need to move on. I mean, again, 2 Karen retrials. You got what's going on with Aiden. How much taxpayer money is involved in all of this? I love Debbie Blair. She's a very wonderful woman. Thank you, Debbie Blair. I am shocked as well. Will it ever end? Exactly, Karen. Amanda says the friendships made through such awful circumstances is beautiful to witness. It's this is a big comment here. It's atrocious how badly damaged Alexis is. Well, that's what I mean. That's a great point. That needs to be stated. Is how much damage is done to the. I mean, they ripped the thing open. Like she was hiding who knows what material inside of the vehicle. It's like, oh, we need to rip this thing apart into like 10,000 pieces and all that. And it's come on. You're gonna do this? You're gonna rip up the vehicle like that? And fortunately it's been repaired or being repaired, but yeah, no, this is a kind of an interesting comment to me as well. It sounds like whatever they've done with the phones, they don't want revealed. That's a very, very, that's a great comment not to post. You have to post this comment because it asks great questions. What are going on with the phones? What do they want? You know the way it is too. They're trying to just tie in. They just want to try to prove like Aiden was put up to this by Karen. And Karen put Aiden up to this and all this stuff. And and I like this comment too. They need to leave Karen alone. I'd add Aiden to that and move on to the real criminals. Loving the show, Mazza from Liverpool, United Kingdom. Thank you so much. Oh, Boston Brandy. Yeah, I did see something on that. Let me, 1 sec. Let me see. Oh yeah, here's some footage. It has copyrighted music on it. That video I just saw from Boston Brandy, so I can't play it. It had the I forget the name of the song, but that has the one I just found had copyrighted music on it. So if I play it, the video gets flagged, so I can't play that. But I like that song that was on that video. The part, ladies and gentlemen, the party has just begun. Cool stuff. All right, but yes, they just won't let this go, and they're trying to tie, like I said, Karen to Aiden, Aiden to Karen, and on it goes. They're spending all this money. There's bigger problems in this state right now. And we're going to talk about Kelsey Fitz Simmons in the 4th and final segment on today's show. But it's just getting ridiculous. There's not, like Aiden said multiple times, there's nothing on his phone. There's nothing on Karen's phone. It's ever going to be of any use. It's a witch hunt. They're just trying to find something and they don't have anything. And, you look at Karen's attorneys, you look at Aiden's attorneys, they've had they don't put it this way. Not only do they have an ace up their sleeve, they have all 4 aces in the deck up their sleeve. And not only do they have all 4 aces in the deck up their sleeve, they have about a 24 pack of cards times 4 with all of those aces too. There's just too much on the side of Karen, too much on the side of Aiden, and it's just a desperate attempt to try to find information, to try to make a case, to try to say, oh yeah, Aiden did this, Aiden did that, this proves our point, and that's all they've tried to do. They did this through 2 trials with Karen. They're attempting that again, obviously, with the ongoing matters with Aiden, as they've done all along. And they continue to try this. They continue to go in that direction, and they won't stop. And it's quite honestly, it's very tiresome. It's extremely tiresome. But fortunately, we have people here that are all tuning into this show, tuning into other shows, all invested in this, donating money to defense funds. Pin to the chat, Aiden and Young Jerks, Turtleboy and Young Jerks defense funds, pin to the chat, that are backing them all the way. We're not giving up. We're not reducing our energy. We're not conceding. We've all been in here for the long haul, which is fantastic, very fantastic. And that's what we need to continue to do. That they're not going to these prosecutors. This county is never going to stop. They get their specially appointed prosecutors all the time, and they're not going to give up, because they're just trying to say, well, this is Aiden's a bad man, Turtleboy is bad, Karen Reed did it, and they just go on and on and on to no end. And all the while, it's like nobody's buying into your nonsense. Karen Reed and Aiden are cool. You're never going to convict them. Stop it. It's just ridiculous at this point. And at the end of the day, the people that are suffering the most, or maybe the most, or maybe are suffering, and the taxpayers. How much taxpayer money? Taxpayer money is to be used in the court of law when it is necessary to try someone that is a legitimate threat to our society or Commonwealth, right? Someone that goes out and kills somebody, for example, right, would be a threat to the Commonwealth. We need to use our resources, or another state's resources, like Utah, for example, to try to put that person behind bars. The same thing here in any other state. Why are we wasting our taxpayer money endlessly having hearings for Aiden, forcing potential trials, all this stuff, when it's going to be a wash at the end, when Aiden's going to walk out the front door, he's going to stand before the press with both his attorneys and say, this whole thing was ridiculous. They tried me for a couple of years. They threw me in jail. They tried to convict me. They lost. It all got thrown out, or a judge overruled it, or a jury said he was not guilty, and nothing's going to ever come from it. Britt Happens, what's going on? It's been a long time. Hope you're doing awesome. Down in Florida. Follow Britt Happens. Follow Britt Happens on Twitter. Follow Britt Happens on YouTube. And that's what's going to happen. That's how it's all going to end. Aiden's going to walk down the stairs, the front steps of the court. Bradel and Mark Bretterow are going to basically laugh at the county and say they tried to do their best. They gave their best shot. They all lost. Aiden gets to go home free. Then he gets to do a show. Then he gets to do a live show, driving home, and a live show that night, bragging about how he won and bragging about how ridiculous it is, because he should. Because he should brag. Because he's been dragged through all of this, and it's just been too much for too long. And we're tired of seeing what Aiden's going through. We are tired. Brian Walsh was stabbed in jail. I heard that report. We're tired of seeing Karen still dragged into all of this, even beyond civil suits. Give her back her property. She's got back her Lexus in some very mild condition, to say the least, to put it mildly. But I think Steve-O has a great point. It's personal for them, not professional. I think that's a very good point. I like your point. Thank you. And yes, Turtleboy has embarrassed them all. And I think that's what this comes down to, too, is personal. Like Steve-O 24 said, it's personal. They don't like the fact that, it's double jeopardy, Tammy, for Karen. But they don't like the fact that Aiden, they try to minimize his efforts. They try to minimize his voice. They try to minimize everything he's ever done. They call him a blogger instead of a award-winning investigative journalist. They try to minimize him. And they don't like the fact that this guy has risen to popularity, risen to relevance through his publishing, through his articles he's written, not blogs, through his shows he's done, which have garnered, hundreds of thousands of viewers or subscribers. His Twitter, his YouTube channels are incredibly expansive beyond what they were prior to him covering Karen Reed. He absolutely took his whole, I even compare my own channel to what it was before Karen Reed. It's just a lot of people's channel is just, elevated, through covering this, but none more than Turtleboy, who had to reap consequences for his efforts, for his journalistic efforts, through his, I forget the word that you use when you champion for somebody else. I'll just say maybe champion for advocate, when you advocate for somebody else, and suffered real consequences. 60 days in jail is no joke. I don't wish that upon anybody. Most people probably couldn't be handled being locked in a single room in their own home for 60 days, let alone jail, alone by yourself, in an environment that can be very uncommon. And, Aiden's done a great job pushing through all that, recovering, getting back in the game. after he got out of jail, and really not really missing a beat, quite honestly, and able to continue to do what he needs to do. And that's very important. And unfortunately, there's people out there who want to put him in jail, put him behind bars, and make him suffer because they're very upset that, number one, he popularized the Karen Reed case. They couldn't incriminate Karen Reed. And now what they want to do is they want to try to lash out at Aiden here all the way till the end to try to make him suffer and pay for helping Karen, and that's what they want to do. And I think that's inherently the importance in supporting Aiden, to donating to his defense fund, to helping him out, to packing the Wilbur Theater yesterday, like so many of you did, is to continue an effort to make sure that one of our guys on our side is not a casualty in this. And that was, that's happened in real life wars, for example, where military forces have fought battles and some of their fellow men have been taken captive, and Vietnam POWs, for example, right? We don't want Aiden to be a comparative to a Vietnam POW. I'm not comparing this to the Vietnam War, but I'm comparing the POWs as an example of a fellow soldier being held captive and basically being left to never escape. And we don't want to, in this particular battle, Karen Reed won, but we don't want Aiden to become a casualty of this. I like how it's 617 viewers there, the 617 for Boston. I love that. We don't want Aiden to be a casualty. We don't want him to be a POW in all of this. We don't want him to be held captive because they try to incriminate him and convict him on at least one of those charges, and he spends time in prison/jail. We don't want this to happen to him. And I think that's why I've kind of said this a few times. Don't leave Aiden, out in the open without your support. Don't be someone that, I'm not saying you guys are. I'm just saying that we've heard from people out there on the internet before that have said, well, I learned about this case through Aiden. I support Karen, but I don't support Aiden. And you're just leaving a man behind if you do that. You're not backing him up. You're letting his efforts go in vain if you're not supporting him in his efforts to defend himself based on the way powers that be that persecuted Karen also in turn persecuted him. So this is why inherently it's important to defend Aiden and support him any way you can and continue that effort. And I think that's very important. I think sometimes, I know Aiden in the past on one of his shows is very bothered by comments like that. Well, I learned about this through Aiden. I support Karen, but I don't support Aiden. It's kind of like, it's like if someone gave you chips at the casino and you won big and then you didn't toss them a few chips to compensate them for giving you free chips to begin with and not giving them anything back. You just want to back people up. And for me, that's always what supporting Karen and supporting Turtleboy has always been about, is backing people up. The worst thing that can ever, it's like with Spartacus. Spartacus stood up. And now imagine if all the other slaves in Rome or wherever didn't stand up behind him, and then they just execute Spartacus and he gets killed, because the other slaves didn't fight alongside Spartacus. It's kind of like that. You don't want to let Spartacus stand up and make a stand and then not stand up along with him. That's kind of how this goes here, is you want to make sure the people that are making a stand are backed up and supported. Because when you look at Michael Morrissey asking for $1 million to try a second Karen Reed case, the reason why he had to ask for that money is because he said it in his own words. Karen Reed's defense was uncommonly well funded, and it was uncommonly well funded by all of you, myself, and many others. Not just the people that hosted fundraisers, but the people that donated to each and every one of those fundraisers. Because if I host a fundraiser show and nobody donates, then it don't matter. It's everybody that donated the funds that got that done. It was all the times we had bought popcorn for Karen, all the times we did standouts that raised this kind of money, raised this kind of awareness, and got this done. And it was absolutely huge. And that's the importance of people. And I think anytime people stand together and rise up and back each other up, that's when change happens. And change doesn't come instantly. It takes time. It's a battle. It's very much an ongoing matter. It can take a lot of time. It can get tiresome and frustrating, such as the Karen Reed case and Turtleboy matters have become, to see them never leave them alone. And I think that's why it's important for us to continue to stand and stand tall and back each other up and come out in force. And I think last night that you saw that at the Wilbur Theater. Aiden was able to produce a an event in the Wilbur Theater that was a sellout. And people came and people showed up because they believe in that cause. And that's extremely awesome. And that's a big thing. And you don't see that much in our country or state. And when that happens, that's a very big and important thing. So great job, everybody. Continue to do your job and continue to do a great job and do the best you can. And like anything, if you can't donate $100 or $50, donate $10. And just donate what you can, help out how you can. If you want to just popularize any case, do it. Do it. I'm going to be talking about Kelsey Fitz Simmons soon. That's a case I'm going to be starting to get involved in. And I'm hoping to help her out any way I participate in that over time. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see how it goes. All right. So we got, let's just reread this again. Where do we leave off here? This is a summary of how Aiden was in jail. In an August 28th, okay, here we go. In an August 28th court filing, less than 2 months after Reed was acquitted in the murder of John O'Keefe, Cosgrove asked the judge to order, okay, we already read this. I'll read it again after I burp, sorry. Cosgrove asked the judge to order Reed to provide any passwords or any other information needed to access the iPhones. Cosgrove is also requesting she identify any communications protected by attorney-client privilege. Reed is challenging this request. Her attorney, Steve Buzang, said he was told the investigation is ongoing. Quote, he says, I think that's clear from the filings, Buzang said. The evidence isn't there. I've read the transcripts. I've reviewed the reports, and it's just simply not there. So I hope at some point, and certainly in the near future, that it's time to move on. I think everybody can agree that it's time to move on. Yeah. All right. When contacted for comment, a spokesperson for the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office stated that special prosecutors operate independently and that the office could not speak for them. Let me ask you guys, do you believe that? When contacted for comment, a spokesperson for the Norfolk County DA's office stated that special prosecutors operate independently and the office could not speak for them. Does anybody believe that at all? I find that, technically it isn't the special prosecutor representing the DA's office. Am I misunderstanding this? I forget to give Nan Gallagher a shout out. I saw her in the chat earlier. If Nan's still here, hope you're doing well, Nan. We got BS, F no, hell no, we won't go. No, I don't think I don't believe that at all. Sounds like they don't want to talk about this. Brian, my guy Brian's in the comments here. He says, not one bit. Nope. In all caps, spaced out. Jay Corners is like, nope, not at all. Steve O says, not for a second. Absolutely. Yep. So this is all ridiculousness once again. All right. In a separate development, Karen Reed's Lexus was returned to her on Monday. JB Auto Karen Weymouth is reportedly fixing the vehicle and a new taillight is being installed. It remains unclear if she will ever drive it again. I was thinking, it might be a good idea for Karen if she wanted to raise some money. I'm going to actually, well, maybe I'll say it. Like, I wouldn't say I don't know if it's a good idea or it might be an idea people reject, but she can just sell the vehicle. Don't just turn the vehicle. Actually, just sell the vehicle for cash or something if she wants. I don't know what she wants to do, but maybe she could sell it for cash and just get some defense fund money out of that just to pay for civil suits. That would be a good idea, right? Just turn the vehicle in for cash. Someone said auction it off. That's what I was kind of thinking too. Should she auction it? Like, what do people think? Do you think she should auction it off or sell it or just do something to kind of get, a way to, the car is still in finance? Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, these people are making some good counterpoints here. Thank you, guys. Yeah, maybe she could auction it off at some point. Some people are saying auction. Maybe auction it off, and that would be a nice way. That could be an option for her to pay for. I'm not going to, I think that's pretty good. Someone goes, smash the car on day one, $100 per person. That's funny. Karen says definitely auction. They should get some options, though. Get some options with that vehicle. All right. So Buzang says he anticipates a court hearing where Reed will formally ask for phones to be returned. If Cosgrove goes back in front of 10 grand juries, 10 grand jurors are going to say no indictment, no true bill, case over. I don't want to get to the point where we have to keep going back to how some grand jury at some point indicts her, he said. An attempt to reach Robert Cosgrove was unsuccessful. If you guys were betting on that, no shock at all. All right, I'm going to get a Mark Wahlberg should buy it, someone said. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see the fate of that vehicle, though. A vehicle that was never actually involved in a crime, right? All right, we are going to transition here. And this is our fourth segment of the show. And I'm going to put Kelsey Fitz Simmons Defense Fund in the chat. I'm not sure if any mods are here today. Maybe I'm the only mod. I'm modding my own show. All right, Kelsey Fitzsimmons' defense funds here. So we've talked about Charlie Kirk. We've talked about Turtleboy at the Wilbur. Scott McGinnis is here. That's right. Thank you, guys. Scott McGinnis is in the chat. Scott, if you're able to, would you be able to? I know I've already pinned Aiden and Mike Crawford's defense fund links to the chat, but it doesn't allow me to add more what's the word? Text, more characters to the pin chat. So, Scott, if you could occasionally just refresh that link I'm posting in the chat for everybody, that would be fantastic. Thank you so much, Scott. Scott McGinnis has been an absolute frontline. Too busy shooting down false narratives. That's funny. That's all right, Scott. You do yours, man. That's good. Yeah, that's good, man. Scott's a great guy. He's been a frontlines warrior for Karen, Aiden, so many other people as well. So we're going to talk about Kelsey Fitzsimmons. We've talked about Charlie Kirk. We've talked about Turtleboy at the Wilbur. We've talked about Karen Reed's phones. Before we do that, Kelly Devers resigned, by the way. She's officially resigned. This was reported by Ted Daniels last night, and she has resigned. So she is out of there. No more Kelly Dever. Those were rumors that were swirling around a while back, and that was confirmed last night. So that has been officially done. So Boston 25 News says, Boston police tell me if Officer Kelly Dever, who testified in the Karen Reed trial, has resigned. On today's date, that's yesterday, September 12, 2025, a personnel order was released stating the resignation of police officer Kelly Dever, assigned to BAT leave of absence after being presented, as hereby effective September 1st, 2025. And then Aiden said, I don't know, that's breaking news. That's funny. Yeah, because I guess we kind of already knew about it. And I guess we were just waiting for, additional. I know I was waiting for additional confirmation. So all that. All right. So as you guys know, with life and with stories come and go over the years, right? You know, stories like are big at one point, then the next story kind of takes over the narrative. And that's kind of the way things go in life. So just like any other channel, you know, I'm always going to look for other topics to talk about over time. As you know, my channel has been primarily about Karen Reed, Turtleboy for a long time. And I continue to still want to cover that, and I will. But also, I feel that my show should be used to help people, and people that I feel are persecuted against, wrongfully convicted, and all that. So I don't want to be a show that covers every case that comes about in the state. I also don't want to cover any case at random. I just want to cover specific stories and all that. So I want to. That's funny, Jessica. That's funny, Jessica. Thank you so much. Yeah, martial arts. Yeah. Joy Shemehar says, Mazza, I want to hear Deborah speak out about how she was set up by the commish. That's the only way she will redeem herself. She was used as a pawn. I agree. I'd like to see Kelly Deborah go for some kind of immunity. and get like an immunity deal to basically, do what she does. Unfortunately, she would perjure herself, so she needs some kind of immunity. But if this thing, she probably need to go through the feds to do something like that, I'm guessing. But she probably needs some kind of federal immunity to do that. But I'd like to see that in a perfect world as well. So yes, topics come and go, stories come and go, other things come up. There's other stories that come up, and for me, I have quietly been looking at different stories over time. One of them was the matter with Trooper Fahey in Connecticut, but I feel like after his arrest and resignation, that story has kind of been resolved. But I looked at a story that was presented to all of us, most of us, by Mike Crawford from the Young Jerks, which is about Kelsey Fitz Simmons, a police officer out of North Andover who recently was released from jail only to be put back in jail. So I personally feel like this woman is basically being placed in a situation that may or may not be so different from Karen Reed's case. And I feel like this is a case for me, and after talking with a few other people, that this is a case I feel needs coverage. And I feel after watching Mike on his show that Mike is taking the lead on a very important matter that has also been, I believe, most recently covered by Melanie Little on her programming. I feel like this is an important matter. And I feel like this is like for me, when I cover a topic, when I cover Karen Reed, I cover Turtleboy, like I feel like I am passionate about those, right? Like I believe what I'm saying. I want to help. Like that's how I feel, right? And if I'm going to move to any other cases, I want to feel that way about an additional case, right? So if I'm going to take on any other case, I want to make sure that I feel, Brother Counsel's covering it now, someone said, that's fantastic, because this needs to be covered. So I personally feel that this is a case that's worth covering. This is someone that needs our help. This is something I believe in, and I feel like I would have a level of passion for it, to the level I have for Karen or Turtleboy. This would be something I would be interested at some point in the future actually going into the courtroom for, no less than once, and then raising funds for. So I'm going to start little by little. You're going to start to see Kelsey Fitz Simmons appear on this channel as long as I may need to. I've reached out to Mike from the Young Jerks and told him I was going to start following this right along with him, that I absolutely am. I respect the fact that he's taking this lead on this as he's doing here in Massachusetts. He's going to be going to court for this. And I just want to be essentially almost a supplement to his programming in terms of like, almost like a show that's almost like in support of his show and what his efforts are. So we can kind of magnify. And this is what happened with the Karen Reed case. Turtleboy covered it, the Young Jerks, many other shows. And then it kind of magnified where other people started covering it as well, including my program, right? I think that was a big thing, because I think that, after listening to Mike on his programming this past week, he feels that we need to raise money. And what we've seen through the Karen Reed case is that we can raise a lot of money through an individual show doing fundraisers, but each content creator will not be available all the time or every day to do those fundraisers, where it's now important for any other content creator to also work with that content creator to raise those money. So for example, me and Mike can do fundraisers individually or be on each other's shows and do those fundraisers, preferably me being on his show as a guest for that. So those are kind of my ideas. I want to be in a fundraising position. That was very big for me. As we're doing right now, we got 3 links going on right now in the chat. We got Aiden Turtleboy's fundraiser. We got Mike Crawford's fundraiser. We got Kelsey Fitz Simmons fundraiser in the chat right now. So Kelsey Fitz Simmons. So this is what we want to do. We want to start to get this story out there more. And many of you already know about the story. Many of you do not. And I'll be honest, I'm being very transparent here. I don't know all the details. Right now, I'm starting to, over the past few days, start to wrap my head around everything. But I'm going to start to take some time to do some more detailed work to start to understand the story more, understand the dynamics more, and start to participate in assisting Kelsey Fitzsimmons in any way we can as a collective unit. And what I'm so happy about right now is we're already seeing so many people, and you're seeing it in the chat right now, so many people that are Karen Reed supporters, Turtleboy supporters, that are already on board with this case, that are very upset about this case. And I think that this is what we've always hoped for in terms of what we all became during the Karen Reed case, is that we as a collective group of people would gravitate to other cases similar to Karen Reed, similar to Turtleboy, where we can start to kind of do what we did there and apply our efforts to someone like Kelsey Fitzsimmons or anybody in the future that needs to do that. And I feel like, my show, my program, what I want to do, I feel like this fits my mission, and what I feel is my calling to participate in helping and aiding people. And someone's talking about the judge. This is someone I have an issue with already, comparatively to the judge in the Karen Reed case. And this is frustrating a lot of us. And again, we're me, Mike, others are Massachusetts people. Massachusetts matters are big, and I'm happy to hear Brother Counsel's now covering this. I'm happy to see Melanie Little's covering this. And I'm hoping at some point, we'll have others involved as well. And we'll continue to get this battle on. Because I think that if you take Karen and Kelsey's names and Aiden's names out of all of this for just a moment, you'll see the commonalities between all three of what's going on. Different county, different judge, different person, different police department. Maybe there's some commonalities there quite a bit, right? That's going on here. So this is a big case. And MCAT just made a comment about Kelsey being put back into jail jail on Thursday. That upset a lot of us. Mike Crawford did an impromptu live essentially on Thursday to rant about it, as he should have. But I let Mike know. I let Mike know I want to participate in this. I want Mike to know that I'm here to work with him, aid him, and be almost like a supplemental show to his show. That basically means that I'd almost be like a secondary show. I'm saying? Mike would be the lead, the foremost guy. My show would kind of be right under there to kind of help. It's like a puzzle. You're adding an additional piece to a whole, and I think that's kind of my vision for my level of participation. I can only do shows on a limited basis. So I think this will be a great case that has a lot of reason to follow. And I think that there's a lot of things here that drove me to following Karen Reed and Aiden in the first place, that are driving me to want to, I'm getting upset in the same way. And someone said Brother Counsel's upset, which is good. We should be upset. But I think, like, for example, we, as a movement of all people, I feel like we have a duty to help people in need. And if we're not, I think that evil prevails because people do nothing or good people do nothing. And I feel like if I don't participate in aiding Kelsey Fitzsimmons, that I'm doing an injustice. I'm not helping someone. I, for example, I can do fundraisers for her. I can raise awareness, right? There might be people right now who have not heard of this story yet that are hearing about it for the first time. That's, to me, what I should be doing, right? I should be talking about this. I should not be ignoring this story, right? And I feel, like I said, I feel passionate right now about this. But just like the Karen Reed case, it took me a while to get the full understanding. It took me a couple of weeks, a couple of shows. And what we're going to do now is we're going to start to understand this. We're going to start to understand what's going on. And we're going to start to figure this thing out. And I feel like I already have enough details to feel confident that Kelsey Fitzsimmons is innocent. And we're going to start to wrap our heads around this. And I hope that you guys will be on board for this. And if not, if you guys want to follow other cases, do your thing. No problem at all. But I feel like this is huge. And Mike seems to think this is going to be a big deal. And I think that when you start to see people like Melanie Little covering it, and people like Brother Counseling covering it, when you start to see those big shows that are got a really big audience covering these cases, that's pretty much an indication that it's just as big as Mike is projecting this is going to be. I think I've said enough, but let's start talking about this case a little bit. So what we're going to do this afternoon is we're just going to go over 2 recent articles. We're going to go over the article where she was released, and then we're going to go over to the article where she was placed back in jail. We're going to just basically get a little bit more of a discussion going on this subject matter. This is also going to be helpful for anyone here that right now is just hearing about this for the first time, or maybe is a little bit similar to me where you've just heard about this case recently. And you're trying to get the details and an understanding. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now. But first, what we're going to do is look at Scott McGinnis' comment. Those handheld scram breathalyzers are very difficult to blow in properly for peeps with lung issues. Kelsey was shot in the chest, collapsed lung. I mean, it's outrageous in terms of her release. And that's really going to be one of the biggest cornerstones of today's conversation. Thank you, Scott. All right, we're going to go to police1.com. It has a lot of ads on it. All right, let's take a look. No, you're welcome, Danny. Thank you. And, this is the way the Karen Reed case kind of started off, too, for me. It was a story that was kind of known about, and then all of a sudden, it just kind of got bigger and bigger. So I'm interested. I just kind of really want to get going on covering this for the first time, and we'll do more shows on this, obviously. All right, so this is a story that happened recently, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, this happened over the summer, and this is the subject here. Mass officer shot in home while off duty to be under house arrest. All right, so so let's just start here. Kelsey Fitz Simmons was a North Andover police officer. Now, just for the purposes of me getting orientated to this story, I might occasionally state something incorrect. If anybody notices that I state anything incorrect at all, please feel free to correct me, and I'll make the adjustment on that. I'm not afraid to be wrong, but I always want to make sure that the information that I put out is as accurate and as correct as possible. So if anybody sees anything said incorrectly, post it in the comment, and we'll get that correct. All right, so North Andover officers went to Kelsey Fitzsimmons' home to serve her with an abuse prevention order. An armed confrontation took place when she was served, resulting in her suffering a gunshot wound. This is an article posted on September 7th. All right, author here is Angelina Berube. And now this story here is out of Salem, Massachusetts, in court. And off-duty, let me make this a little larger for the chat. And let me take a look at how that looks. Is this size still pretty good? I was under the belief she's no longer a police officer. We're going to fact check that as we go. All right. So an off-duty North Andover police officer was shot in her home by a colleague serving a restraining order. Will be released to the custody of her mother and stepfather under GPS-monitored home confinement as she awaits trial. So this is the article from the other day. There's another story that happened that's going to change the most recent story, but I just want to walk everybody through this in a chronological fashion here today. And also they're advertising like crazy on this website. All right, so essentially she was sent to be in the custody of her parents under GPS-monitored home confinement as she awaits trial. Kelsey Fitz Simmons, age 28 of North Andover, pleaded not guilty Thursday following her arraignment on a charge of assault by means of a dangerous weapon in Essex County Superior Court. Her defense attorney, you guys will know who this defense attorney is. Defense attorney Timothy Bradle, represents Turtleboy, of course, said Fitzsimmons is scheduled to be released Friday, almost 2 months after the shooting took place. Fitzsimmons wept in court as her cuffed hands took a tissue from a bailiff to dry her eyes when Judge Kathleen McCarthy Naiman ordered her to have absolutely no contact with her 6-month-old child. Fitzsimmons' release is pending an inspection of her family's home and criminal background check of each household member as outlined in the conditions of release. The judge found state prosecutors met the burden of proof that Fitzsimmons is dangerous, but set 10 conditions to keep the community safe. Her order came with a warning in court to Fitzsimmons' mother and stepfather, Lauren and William Page, that they will be charged with contempt if they assist her in seeing the baby. Well, she's in home arrest. Quote, she is a danger, and these are the least restrictive conditions to ensure the safety of the public and victims, said McCarthy-Nahum, the judge. Fitzsimmons answered in agreement as the judge informed her she can be held without bail if she violates any conditions. Fitzsimmons was released last week from Massachusetts General Hospital, where she underwent surgery after being shot in the chest, Bradel said. She is being held at Western Massachusetts Regional Women's Correctional Center in Chicopee pending her release. All right, here we go. So now we're going to get into the background of the story more. Little Rose by Better Rose in the house. All right, so we're going to get another ad here. Let's get that out of the way. Need to get the little water break. 4-segment show today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please subscribe to this channel and like this video. Please subscribe. You can subscribe on YouTube, and you can subscribe to me on X. If you guys aren't following me there, please tune in. Follow me there. Appreciate it. Please subscribe on YouTube and X. Thank you guys so much. A couple different things. Turtleboy's Defense Fund. I'm going to recap it every so often. Turtleboy's Defense Fund and the Young Jerks Defense Fund are pinned to the top of the chat. Kelsey Fitz Simmons Defense Fund is also going to be pasted in the chat periodically. I just put it back in there again. Okay, she's been following this since day one. Thank you for that. Okay, I was not aware of that. Thank you so much for the just giving me the information on that. So for me, I just realized that I saw Melanie Little was covering it recently, but I have not known that she was following this all the while. Thank you for that. I appreciate this. That's great to know. I'm glad to see Melanie's been on this since the forefront. That's fantastic. She's a heavy hitter in the true crime community, and that's awesome. Thank you for giving me that information. Appreciate that. Appreciate the update. Thank you. Like I said, I don't know everything, but I'm always willing to learn as I go along. On June 30th, 3 North Andover police officers went to Fitzsimmons' home at 125 Phillips Brooks Road to serve her with an abuse prevention order filed by her fiance, North Andover firefighter Justin Alayan, the father of the child. Authorities said an armed confrontation took place when she was served with the order, resulting in her suffering a gunshot wound. The shot fired by North Andover police officer Patrick Noonan struck Fitzsimmons in the chest after she pointed her service weapon at him in her upstairs bedroom, police stated in an official report following the incident. Noonan alleges she pulled the trigger, but the weapon did not fire. So think about that for a second, right? We're gonna go delve into our opinions on this in a moment, but I just want to give you guys the overview. So the officer for the North Andover Police Department, her own partner, is basically saying here that okay, Olivia Niles in the house. The judge is insane. Casey's only facing 5 years max. When have you ever seen a defendant held without bail for such a small potential sentence? Great point, Olivia. Olivia Nile in the house. So, like that to me, like think about that for a second, right? Noonan alleges that Kelsey pulled the trigger, but the weapon did not fire. Really? That's interesting. Because Kelsey Fitzsimmons has another point to say. Noonan stated that Fitzsimmons tried to reload the gun's chamber after it did not fire, prompting him to shoot her, according to the police. So let me get this straight. He's saying that she pointed a weapon at him, a gun at him, pulled the trigger, it didn't fire, and only when she went to go reload, that's when he fired. So he didn't try to shoot her when she was allegedly pointing the gun at him? That's very interesting. Okay. So he shoots her. Kelsey, however, claimed that she never pointed the gun at another officer, just her temple. That's her own temple, her own head. Okay. Fitzsimmons claimed she was shot by someone she considered a friend in a failed attempt to take her own life. So essentially, he's saying she pointed the gun at him. Then her gun jammed or didn't fire right. She went to go reload the gun. So he decided to fire a shot at her. Non-fatal shot. That's his statement. Her statement is She put the gun to her own head, and then he fired a bullet at her. I'll be honest with you. There's a lot less layers to Kelsey's story than there is to his story. That's one thing I noticed right away. Her story is very simple. She put a gun to her own head, and she was shot. His story is she pointed a gun at him, and then he shot at her, and then she went to reload it or something. She pointed a gun at him, then she went to go reload it, then he shot. It's like, come on, just too many layers there. Let's see what Olivia says. Olivia's been following this as well. Olivia is going to be another person that's going to be really huge to see commentating on this case. This is, Olivia's reputation goes without saying, folks. She's awesome. She's one of the best. She's also helping Turtleboy at very high levels. Kelsey has been charged with 0 alcohol-related offenses. Why is alcohol testing even a condition? Karen Reed wasn't made to wear a house arrest bracelet, nor was she alcohol tested, and she was charged with murder. It doesn't make sense. I mean, like for example, let's talk about the cop's perspective or cop's story, right? If she pointed the gun at him, how often does the gun really jam? Did the handgun have a safety on it? Did she forget to take the safety off? Have they told us that yet? I'd like to know that. How often does that gun jam? I'd like to know the information on that. So it doesn't, another ad again. AAA. It doesn't really pass the smell test to me. It's the gun happened. Okay, so she pointed a gun at you, but it happened to jam. Because the cop or the officers of the police department, whoever made the ultimate call on this story being the narrative, obviously wanted that to be the predominant story. They wanted to be it's just like Karen Reed. They wanted to have some kind of justification of why it would be Karen Reed when they put those charges on. It's the same thing with Kelsey Fitz Simmons. They wanted to try to justify it because they know that a woman putting a gun to her own temple and an officer firing at her would be probably a pretty bad judgment, right? You probably wouldn't want to shoot somebody who has a gun to their own head. Probably would be bad, wouldn't it? Probably would be a bad judgment call by a police officer to shoot somebody that has a gun to their own temple. Probably pretty bad, right? So there's only one way to justify it if you're that officer. That's that, she pointed a gun at me. So here's the common story, right? When you look at the fact that Kelsey Fitzsimmons put a gun to her head, which is her story, which is the story I believe. What is the truth of that story? The truth is that the gun was never fired, right? She put the gun to her head, but the trigger was never pulled. That is a story that confirms that no bullet was fired, right? Turned the gun on herself, never pulled the trigger. In his story, it's she pulled the gun on him, never pulled the trigger, but here's the caveat. This is where the caveat comes in, right here. The gun jammed. That's where I look at this and I say, oh, wait, look at that. Because if the story was just she put a gun to her head and he shot at her, well, that's the story. Okay, he maybe was misguided in shooting someone with a gun to their temple. Got it. But his story is interesting. Oh, she pointed the gun at me, and she went to pull the trigger because he has to be justified in shooting her, right? Because shooting a woman with a gun to her own head is not justified, I'm guessing, right? Am I wrong about that? So they have to justify the fact that this officer shot her, which is how? She pointed the gun at me. So they wanted to make her an active threat. That's their story. Now, here's the thing. No bullets were fired. Because they can't have a story where she didn't fire and he did. Any more than they can have a story that she put the gun to the temple and he fired at her. They can't have that story both ways. They can't have it either way. It's bad either way. So they go with their little caveat. She pulled the gun on me. She aimed her gun at me. But the gun jammed, right? That's what they came out with. But the gun jammed. And then she went to reload that gun because she's still an active threat. And so because she tried to fire at me and the gun jammed and I had to pull the gun on her, she tried to reload the gun and fire at me again. I had no choice but to shoot her. Is that the story that they're going with? That's the story that they're going with. They find a way to try to make it seem like Kelsey Fitzsimmons was an active threat. And that no matter what was going to happen, Kelsey Fitzsimmons, for some reason, was just going to decide that day to just start shooting at officers, or that officer, Noonan. Very, very interesting. So he alleges she pulled the trigger, but the weapon did not fire. So then he states, she tried to reload the gun. That's all where they're trying to. So someone makes a great point here. Why not taser her? I mean, it's the simple math, right? Why not just taser her? So it's like I said. Oh, she tries to pull the gun. She aims the gun at you, but the weapon doesn't fire. Then she tries to reload. Doesn't fire. After it did not fire, prompting him to shoot her. Jeez. So again, I'm just going to repeat this part. She claimed that she never pointed the gun at another officer, just her temple. Fitzsimmons claimed she was shot by someone considered a friend in an effort to take her own life. All right, here we go. New information. State prosecutor James, I'll try to say it here, Gubatos, said that the state presented 2 charges to the grand jury: armed assault with intent to murder and assault with a deadly weapon. So that's just not correct at all, right? So those are 2 missed charges. She had no intent to murder, and she did not commit assault with a deadly weapon. Essentially, it was a suicide attempt. The grand jury rejected the armed assault charge and indicted her on the lesser charge, assault with a deadly weapon. Gubatos said while the charge has changed, the state still argued that Fitzsimmons is a danger to the community and the officer who shot her. So does this start to feel like to you like Karen Reed all over again? They just want to make her look as crazy and out of control as possible. And while I understand putting a gun to your own head, obviously would be, the sense of saying, well, someone's out of mind. We have to look at the fact of her state at that time. This is a woman going through postpartum depression, right? They're trying to make her look crazy, but this woman is also going through postpartum depression. I'm not the expert on postpartum depression. I'm not, but I obviously understand that any woman going through that in the time after giving birth to a child is going to have a lot of struggles mentally. This is not going to be an easy time. This is not an easy process to get through. And it's not easy. And if she was putting a gun to her own head because she was losing her mind because her child had just been taken away, exactly, she's about to have her baby taken away from her, then this is an absolute circumstance where she's gonna be, in a difficult situation. But I don't think that postpartum behavior or actions truly reflect on the everyday psychology and normal psychology of Kelsey Fitzsimmons. Okay, so we have confirmation here that we're saying Kelsey Fitzsimmons is still a cop. She's under suspension. Perfect. Thank you for that extra information. I know I'm going to be seeking a lot of information and learning information as I go. So if people have that info, let me know. But that's what we're getting at. And Karen says, they took her child away. I wouldn't want to live anymore. We've talked about, there's nothing more, horrible that can ever happen to any woman on this planet that loves their child, that is truly connected to their child, right? Not, every mother out there, one or two mothers out there every now and then that don't care about their kids or babies. But we're talking about a mother that loved her kid. Postpartum depression, losing the child. Emotions are, you're not gonna cause more of a reaction out of any woman on the face of this earth that's a mother than their child. Any true mother, if my mother ever lost us, and it doesn't matter if we were an infant or any age up to the end of her life cycle, she would never want to see anything bad happen to us. She would never want to see us taken away or bad things happen or us die, or she would never want any mother on the planet would never want to see a mother's worst nightmare is something happening to her own child. Beyond herself, beyond her own well-being, her child comes first, right? That is nothing psychologically that can upset a mother more than something bad happening to her child or her child being taken away. That is, and I'd like to ask the women that are tuning in here. I'm a man talking about an issue that pertains more to a woman's experience. Am I accurate? Am I accurate on all of this? Do you guys, is this everything I'm saying universally agreed upon? Like, I'm not wrong about this, right? I mean, that's the way my mom is. My mom would not ever want to see us go. She would be reeling, reeling if this happened to her. And then postpartum depression. It's psychologically, thank you, Karen. Thank you all. It's a psychologically altering matter, and it's real, and you don't realize you have it, as being stated here. Thank you all to all the women in the chat. I appreciate this. I appreciate that. Sometimes I don't know as much as I should know, right? I guess that's all right. But no, postpartum depression, and then this happening, it's not a good mix. It's the worst thing that could happen while she was going through this, and it could cause and result in drastic measures, which is putting a gun to your own head. And that narrative I don't deny at all. But from the officer's standpoint, what's going on here? They needed, it's like I always said, why did they shatter the taillight when it came to Karen Reed's vehicle? And I always said because they needed to justify the wounds on John O'Keefe's arms. That was always, we have Wrestler's Mom. My kids are everything I would have went crazy if I was Kelsey. Thank you for that comment, Wrestler's Mom. They had to justify John O'Keefe's arm wounds, right? So now the shattered taillight came into play. That's what they had to do because they had to make it look like a justifiable matter that Karen did this and not people in the house. So here comes the shattered taillight. Oh, taillight shattered on the arm. That explains the arm wounds. That was their way of justifying all this. It's the same thing in this particular matter. Her putting her gun to her head is not necessarily going to warrant a cop shooting her at all. So what do these cops have to do? We need to justify what we need to do. So we're going to say, okay, we're going to take advantage of a woman going through postpartum depression. We're going to take advantage of a woman who's actively losing her child. And we're going to try to justify this all by saying she aimed a gun at the officer. Officer had no choice but to fire back. When she realized the gun jammed because obviously no bullets were fired. The gun had jammed. And oh my God, she's going to reload. So I pulled out my gun and I shot her. That's basically the story that they're going with. And it's a wild story. It's a wild story. And I happen to believe that Kelsey Fitzsimmons is more than significantly more likely to try to put a gun to her own head as opposed to trying to shoot the officers. And even though I do think that there might have been a chance she might have done that, not in this scenario though, but a chance in a general scenario, then explain to me why the gun happens to jam in the cop scenario. Why would the gun jam? Then that's where it gets far-fetched to me. Because if this had happened in a situation where she was losing her kid, the kid was being taken away, she had postpartum depression, she pulled out a handgun, more than likely that bullet's going to get fired without any kind of error. That's for me the sticking point in all of this. Because the gun happens to quote unquote jam. Then she goes to reload and then the cop fires at her. It's explaining away a situation in my particular opinion. And that's when I look at all of this, and that's where I come very easily to find that Kelsey Fitzsimmons is on the side of truth. I also feel like Kelsey Fitzsimmons is not shying away from the fact that she put a gun to her own head. She's not shying from the fact that she was upset over her child. She's not shying away over pretty much anything she did from her own perspective. And I think that that's very, very much relevant here. These cops are saying, because the burden of firing the gun is on the cops, right? The cops know. A cop knows if he's going to fire his gun, he has to be justified in doing so. And if for any reason that officer's not justified in doing so, they need to find a workaround to justify the fact that they did that. And that's where I find, oh, the gun jammed. Oh, she went to reload. Oh, she was going to fire again. Oh, I had no choice to shoot. That's how I look at this. Kelsey Fitz Simmons' defense link is in the chat. It's not pinned. Turtleboy's defense fund is pinned. Make a donation to him if you're able. The Young Jerks defense link is pinned. Make a donation to him if you're able. And one sec. We have news that Jess Machado will be getting involved as well. She has the voice transcript of Thursday's court hearing between Tim Bradel and the judge. This judge is a piece of work. Okay, here we go. My throat got really itchy here. Judge McCarthy, I forget the name. Judge McCarthy, McCarthy Naaman. No body cam footage. That's another thing I want to say about this. Body cam footage should be mandated, not only statewide, but nationally. Body cam footage needs to be mandated. No body cam footage? Come on. You know, that's another thing. It's just like the Karen Reed case, right? There's no ring footage anywhere in the neighborhood. There's no footage that can just say, that's what happened. There it is. This is another case where, guess what? You know, guess what? Oh, there's no body cam footage. It's a he said, she said. You know, they might try to say, oh, she had postpartum depression. She doesn't remember the story as it happened. And we remember what happened. We were there. She pulled a gun on us. We had no choice but to shoot. They're going to try to pull that BS. That's what they're trying. That's obviously, in my opinion, what I'm seeing here. That appears to be what they're doing. That seems to be the case here. And it's not cool at all. Definitely not. But that body cam, that if there was a body cam on, I mean, they knew they were going to her house. They knew she was a cop. They knew she had a gun. They asked her to turn over her gun. They knew, you know, there could be a reaction over having to give over her child. They're cops. They know they should be prepared, right? So if those cops are going to that house, they should have had the body cams on, because anything could have happened at any time. Or if maybe they didn't even have body cams on them. I'm going to have to learn that information. Olivia might know that. That's information I'm going to have to dig into and learn for myself. Did they have body cams? Did they not? Oh, perfect. Okay. Jess Machado posted the court audio from last hearing on her Twitter. It's worth the listen. I'm going to have to take a look at that. We're going to need all hands on this one. And it looks like a lot of folks are starting to get involved in this. And you know, Tim Bradel, it's nice to know Tim Bradel. We all know Tim Bradel. It's nice to kind of already know this attorney and support Tim Bradel. And Tim Bradel is basically going to be one of the most backed Massachusetts attorneys other than David Yannetti and all that here. So we're going to back up Tim Bradel. Yeah, no body cams. That's an issue as well. And right, now it comes to he said, she said. 100%. So all right, so they say she's an danger to the community. This was Olivia's point earlier. The new charge comes with a maximum of 5 years in prison or house alternative if convicted. Judge McCarthy Naaman, who denied Fitzsimmons bail appeal twice, said she understood she was facing a significantly different charge than when Fitzsimmons last appeared before her for a dangerousness hearing August 14th. She also took into account the fact that the grand jury yielded a lesser charge based on the evidence it heard. The judge, however, still found Fitzsimmons. Now, I'd imagine she's not anywhere near postpartum depression anymore. Okay. The judge, however, still found Fitzsimmons to be a danger and not able to be released on personal recognizance alone. Gubitos, if I'm saying the name right, submitted additional statements to McCarthy Naaman made by Alelian and an unidentified longtime friend of Fitzsimmons. The new statements include comments on how Fitzsimmons has allegedly struggled with mental health, aggression, and alcohol abuse since high school. So here we go. Made by her fiance, right. So it was submitted to the judge by her fiance and an unidentified longtime friend of Fitzsimmons. The new statements include comments on how Fitzsimmons has allegedly struggled with mental health, aggression, and alcohol abuse since high school. Well, I would argue a few different things about all of this. Number one, I think that we can agree universally as human beings that everybody has good moods and bad moods, which can be related to your mental health. So essentially, everybody has mental health issues as a human being. Am I wrong about that? Essentially, everybody has mental health issues. Everybody has good moods, bad moods. They're happy, they're mad. They're glad and they're sad, right? There's no question about that. Aggression. Well, she became a cop. And I think that anybody that becomes a cop probably has a reasonable level of aggression in their blood in order to becoming a cop. That's definitely something that qualifies as having an aggression. Alcohol abuse. Well, people drink alcohol, some less than others, some more than others. So alcohol abuse could be a subjective comment to make. Well, she drinks alcohol. People drink alcohol. Does that necessarily mean that she's an alcoholic? Does that necessarily mean that she's an alcohol abuser? So it's all it's all up for debate. It's all up for perspective. Scott McGinn says, I always disagreed with Martha Coakley's previous takes politics, but I was happy to see her at Bradle's side on this one. Martha is standing up to the outrageousness of the judge in this case. I think that's one of the most important things about our country, too, is when we transcend politics and political beliefs. Even though some out there would have voted against Martha Coakley or for Martha Coakley, I think it's always good when people, regardless of political beliefs, can align with one another. I think that oftentimes our society faces challenges that are greater beyond our political beliefs, and often we have to support one another in order to stand up for something. These are self-serving statements that are totally unchallenged, unclear whether the judge is factoring them into her decision. She's not been charged with that self-serving hearsay. Exactly, Olivia. 100%. So he added that while he was not suggesting Fitzsimmons did not struggle with mental health or postpartum depression after giving birth in February, there was testimony about her anger issues dating back several years. Well, again, most people that become cops usually have a level of anger or toughness to them. I'm not saying they're out of control, but usually these people are pretty like I played basketball. How many teammates like myself and others got angry playing the sport? Now everybody gets angry to different levels. Bradle argued, and Bradle has to argue all the time because these judges this is Tim Bradle's life. Tim Bradle walks into court, tells the judge exactly what happened, tells the judge exactly how things should be ruled on, justifies everything he says, backs it up with actual law, cites the law, makes sense, and then the judges in Turtleboy's case or Kelsey Fitzsimmons' case typically just sit there like this and don't acknowledge, won't, whatever. And here we are again, ladies and gentlemen. I've talked about earlier in this broadcast why I want to talk about this case. Cops against cops again. This is a cops against cops again matter, right? Basically, in this case, Kelsey Fitzsimmons is the cop being betrayed, just like John O'Keefe, and she's the woman being framed, just like Karen Reed. She's almost a hybrid in a sense. You know what I'm saying? She's almost a hybrid in a sense, where she I'm not talking 100% hybrid or 100% of both of them, but you can see certain elements of John O'Keefe and Karen Reed and her, where it's cops against cops, and she's the cop on the outside, and then she's like Karen Reed, where she's being framed for something that didn't happen the way it was said, and that's really crazy in a big sense, in a really big sense. And then you have a judge that is already, Olivia Nile just got done saying that she thinks this judge is worse than Judge Beverly Cannoni. And if that's a fact, and I'll be assessing this judge over time myself to see what I truly think. But is this another judge gatekeeping for a county? Is this another judge gatekeeping for a police department? Is this, this is why I see, I'm starting to understand why Mike Crawford is adamant about covering this, why Jess Machado is covering this, why you're probably really soon going to see a lot of those very notable content creators we all follow start to cover this, because this is something else. The judge is from North Andover. So here we go now once again, where connections are starting to be revealed, where we're starting to look back and realize, guess what? There's some connections here, and that's here we go again, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to see Melanie Little and Brother Counsel covering this, Mike Crawford, and I'm sure many others are going to start to jump on this. Jess Machado is already taking some action as well to cover the story. So this is something else. All right, so Bradel argued Fitzsimmons was a candidate. Let me get my picture minimized. Bradel argued Fitzsimmons was a candidate for a probationary sentence and stressed that medical professionals reported his client was not a danger and ready to be released with a mental health treatment plan. So there you go. See, Bradel gets right to the spine of it all. Okay, regardless of whatever issues she has, let's put her, she's a candidate for a probationary sentence. Perfect. We'll put her on probation, and that he also cites a medical professional who reported his client was not a danger. So there you go. He's agreeing to probation. He's saying, hey, my client has been seen by medical professionals who say she's not a danger, and that's because the postpartum no longer is a factor. And then he says, hey, let's release her with a mental health treatment plan. So basically he's saying, we acknowledge that, she's not seen as a danger. We acknowledge that, mental health is a concern here, but let's release her with a mental health treatment plan. He said she received daily mental health treatment at Massachusetts General Hospital, but does not have these services available to her at the corrections center. So that's, again, where Tim Bradel really excels as an attorney. He really excels as an attorney all the time, but he makes sense. In other words, he's willing to say, Your Honor, look, we understand the concerns, but there are alternatives here. There are ways that if you think that this individual is a threat, we can place her in a situation, probationary, house arrest with mental health treatment, and this can meet all the concerns for her conditions of release. And that's very good, lawyering there. It's very good. It's making a deal with the judge or saying to the judge, we understand the concerns. We're willing to compromise on that. We think we can work this thing out. Let's go that route, and that's. Yeah, I know. I got to hear the audio still. I got to start getting caught up on this story. This is my initial pass through all of it. But that's why I'm happy to have so many people that may have more information than me, because we can do a couple of things. We can start to get me more educated, but we can also start to get people that don't know about the story initially educated, and we can all come together to educate ourselves. So I appreciate everybody in the comments touching up things for me as well throughout this program to kind of make sure I'm up to par with where I need to be as I'm getting invested in this story. But again, Bradel makes a lot of sense. He's just saying, hey, look, let's just get this thing worked out. There's ways we can do. Now, Olivia is saying here, Judge used to have a law firm business in North Andover prior to becoming a judge. She is a Baker, former governor nominee. This is wild. So Bradel's willing to compromise here in reasonable ways. So the story continues. Article continues. Fitzsimmons is not permitted to leave the house with the exception of doctor visits or to see her attorney, all of which need approval. All right. Doctor visits are always something that need to be done, and to see her attorney. And those all need approval. All right. Her mother is in charge of driving Fitzsimmons to and from appointments. The judge advised her mother. I heard this might be in the article later, but I heard that when she goes to the doctors or her attorney, they have like a specific route they have to follow. Her mother is in charge of driving Fitzsimmons to and from appointments. The judge advised her mother that she can only drive on the, here it is. Okay. The judge advised her mother that she can only drive on the approved route, and anything else would be considered a violation, right? So they pre-approve a route for her. She goes on that route, and then that's it. That's the whole process. All right. Fitzsimmons is ordered to have no contact with any victim or witness. And this is the big one. Along with no direct or indirect contact with her child. She is allowed to see photos of her child, however. So it looks like if her parents got new photos or something, they could at least see that. But at the end of the day, that's really that's really a big blow to Kelsey, not being able to see her own child. I mean, you get to get out of jail, but you don't get to see your child. This is absolute madness. And Bradel, like you said, was willing to make the acceptable compromises, but not getting to see your child right after she gets out of jail is really being told to us in the comments here by a lot of people that have a big response. This is, let's see, that's a good comment by Darcy. Are supervised visits at least on the table here? Can she at least get that? And I've never heard of approved routes. I'm not the expert on that, but the approved route's a little wild, I think, too. What if there's a road under construction and they need to take an alternate route? So no contact or indirect contact with their child. She is not allowed to have any weapons or firearms in the house, right? So I'd like to know what that is limited to. Knives? Bow and arrow? I don't know. Fitzsimmons is to wear a device around the clock to determine if she has consumed alcohol, since she is not determined to drink alcohol, not permitted to drink alcohol. So she has to wear a device around the clock to determine if she has consumed alcohol, since she is not permitted to drink alcohol. Now, Olivia said earlier, this is a person that doesn't really have a history of any alcohol-related charges, or other people seem to kind of say, hey, well, she's has a history of alcohol abuse. All right. She must undergo medical and psychiatric treatment and sign waivers so the probation department is able to contact her doctors. Jeez. All right. Fitzsimmons is due back in Essex County Superior Court for pretrial conference on October 7th. All right. So pretrial conference on October 7th. All right. Let's start moving on here. All right. So that day of this article, or during that article, or during the time frame that article is referring to, she's released from jail that day. All right. This is the photo right here. This is that conference. All right. She gets out of jail. Bradel and his attorneys, Martha Coakley. Martha Coakley used to serve in the state here as an attorney general. Here they all are having their press conference. She's getting released. So 3 days later, so she got released on jail on Monday. And now all of a sudden, a North Andover officer, the article says here, ordered held on dangerousness days after release. So all of a sudden, out of nowhere here we go. She's back in jail 3 days later. 3 days later, they get her back in jail again. And you're not going to, I'm telling you right now, folks, if you don't know the background of the story, you're going to be reacting in a very intense way in just a few moments when you hear about why she had to get placed back in jail. And the reason why is, in my opinion, absolutely excusable. All right, so this is the Monday press conference. All right, here we go. This is the article from the 11th now, Thursday. A North Andover police officer shot by a colleague in late June was released from jail Monday after months of medical treatment and several weeks behind bars. But by Thursday, 28-year-old Kelsey Fitz Simmons was back in jail after a judge vacated the terms of her release and deemed her as dangerous. The order came, this is a Mass Live article, the order came after lawyers for Fitzsimmons told an Essex Superior Court judge during a Thursday hearing that she could not complete required alcohol testing without severe pain due to her injuries from being shot. All right. There you go, folks. I'm rereading that for you guys. I just want to make sure people that are new to this are able to kind of just hear this and how wild this is, okay? Kelsey Fitzsimmons said during her hearing that she could not complete required alcohol testing without severe pain due to her injuries from being shot. This woman, and that's a great point, Olivia. This woman was shot, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? Shot. Kelsey Fitzsimmons is physically unable to do this without immense pain. And I'm going to be comparing this to someone with an injured ankle or broken foot being made to do jumping jacks or stand on the injured leg with one of the healthier foot raised. You cannot expect that person with an injured foot to do jumping jacks. You cannot expect them to stand on one foot on the injured foot. She was shot in the chest, which is a matter that, I mean, it goes directly to breathing. She has the blow in the scram device. She has been shot in the chest, which could have affected her body's ability to breathe. And they're going to let her out of court. Let her out of jail 3 days on Monday, 3 days before. Knowing this woman is probably going to have a little bit of difficulty doing that scram test. And then they're going to put her back in jail 3 days later because she is physically unable to perform without significant pain and agitation for hours on end. If she had a broken foot, she would not be able to complete 10 jumping jacks. It's called rational thinking. You know? How are you going to release a woman on the conditions that she completes a test that she is physically unable to perform without pain and discomfort? Why are you not giving her an alternative option where she can complete the required test and not have that same kind of pain? So you get what you want, but you're also helping a person that just had surgery as well, right? I mean, I don't usually swear on my show, but this is the level of bullshit that we're dealing with here. No judge should ever place a person in a situation like this. And for the love of God, don't release her in the first place if this is such a concern. Don't just release her and say, oh, well, you couldn't do the breathalyzer, so you're back in there. Olivia says, Kelsey was in the hospital for 53 days with this condition. 53 days. Olivia said before, this is even worse. She's healing broken ribs and severely damaged vital organs. Her lung could collapse from having to do the scram testing. This testing will 100% compromise her body's healing. Exactly. You know, anybody that's ever had a family member have bypass surgery on their heart, okay, I'm going to tell you what they do. Because my family's been through this. They give you this breathing thing. It's like a bunch of tubes on it, and it has these little tiny balls. And you put your mouth to it like you would a flute, and you breathe it. And you got to do breathing practice. And what it does is it helps you strengthen your lungs and your body after having bypass surgery. Okay, that's what they put you through. You got to breathe every day. And it's a big struggle for these people to do this. Okay. Now, I'd imagine being shot in the chest. Well, it's not bypass surgery. To some degree, it's going to have a common effect on your body in terms of recovery. Okay. I mean, that's common sense medicine, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. It's not easy. You know, it's very difficult for these people. What you consider common is not very easy at all. You're placing this person in a very restrictive environment with very, very deep circumstances on the line. Olivia says, Kelsey had tubes inserted into her chest to remove the fluid that would otherwise build up and kill her. Yes, so probably a lot of people get Lasix that have like build up in their lungs and stuff. Thank you, KPT. Oh, thank you for that. It's for the bypass surgery to make sure I don't get pneumonia. Thank you for that. But it was tough for the, anyone I've seen go through bypass surgery, they still have trouble with the breathing initially. At least the experience that I had, the person I saw go through that, they had trouble breathing as strongly until they got stronger. But yes, thank you for that. Kelsey had tubes inserted into her chest to remove the fluid that would otherwise build up and kill her. Her body is weak and severely injured right now. It's like the judge forgot she was shot. Exactly. This is the lack of understanding here. They're penalizing this woman by putting her back in jail for being physically unable to perform a requirement that was mandated by the judge. The judge should have made exceptions to this or offered alternatives to this before her release, not based on the hearing when they called her back in. It should have been done before she left in the first place. And then to just deny this outright when she's back in for a dangerousness hearing on Thursday, and just, she can't breathe into the thing. Just shot in the chest. How do you expect her to do this? This is why people complain about corruption in our state. Because we see stuff like this and we say to ourselves, my God, this is outrageous. This is absolutely insane. How could this possibly go on in our state? How could this possibly be? We sit there and we say these things. How can this judge, regardless of her position on how dangerous or not dangerous she believes Kelsey Fitz Simmons to be, not give her a breathalyzer or some kind of test for blood alcohol level that would be more in line with her ability to actually physically perform the test? She has set up Kelsey Fitz Simmons for failure. They could have done a blood test, 100%. She's approved to go to medical doctor's visits. Why not approve her to go to a local facility or some kind of special facility to, wasn't dangerousness? The first one was the dangerousness. I'm sorry. That was okay, that's right. It was the dangerousness on Monday. And then that's when they got called in on Thursday. Yeah. Oh, sorry about that. Thank you. That's right. Monday was the dangerousness. Thank you, Olivia. Yeah, it's just, this is wild. And you wonder why people in this state and country sometimes complain about the way it is in this country, the way it is in these states. The order came after lawyers for Fitzsimmons told an Essex Superior Court judge during a Thursday hearing, it was a Thursday hearing, that she could not complete required alcohol testing without severe pain to her injuries from being shot. As a condition of her release, Fitzsimmons was ordered to use a scram alcohol device that required her to blow intensely into a tube several times each test. Her lawyers wrote in a motion filed Wednesday. But Fitzsimmons, who was shot in the chest and experienced severe lung, diaphragm, and liver damage, along with broken ribs, continues to suffer pain and difficulty breathing. So not only does she have trouble, doing the test, but she can't breathe when she's just on her own time, just sitting there breathing naturally. Like right now, for example, is not easy. God. During the hearing, Timothy Brado, a lawyer for Fitzsimmons, said she had been passing the alcohol tests, but not without hours of pain and dizziness afterwards. Olivia says, why did the judge suggest Kelsey do colors, a different type of alcohol testing program? The judge knows of all the alternatives that exist, but she wanted Kelsey back in jail. It sure seems like it to me. It sure seems like she was set up for failure to me. And Olivia is spot on about that. And this crazy cat lady says the judge doesn't care that she was shot. Jeez. God almighty. Forgive me, Lord. I've said what already needs to be said. I'm going to move on to the next section. The machine shouldn't be a torture device for her, he said. Well, that's exactly right. This is a torture device at this point. She's having to physically struggle, labor through all of this. It's ridiculous. And this is our justice system, ladies and gentlemen, at work. But Judge Kathleen McCarthy Naiman said if Fitzsimmons cannot or will not undergo alcohol testing, that changes everything. Well, that's where the judge is wrong. he says this judge shouldn't, he says this, Brado says this machine shouldn't be a torture device for her. That's a fair argument. The judge says, well, if she can't undergo it or will not undergo it, then that changes everything. That is blatant negligence by this judge. That is blatantly refusing to look at any alternatives whatsoever. She's saying, oh, well, she will not take it. Well, if she cannot take it, that's an exception. And that's the fact here. She cannot take the test. The facts here is that she cannot take the test. It's not that she will not take the test. And even if she will not take the test, it's because it's causing physical pain for her. And there's alternatives. Blood and urine. Blood or urine, I should say. There's alternatives here. They can amend that release. They can amend those terms and put her in a situation where, see, like someone says, human rights issue. She can turn around and probably sue the state for this, I'm guessing. I'll have to ask an attorney about that. Kelsey was undergoing the alcohol testing. This judge blatantly lies and twists Brado's words. It's insanity. That's an understatement, that's for sure. Wait till you hear the way the judge lies about what Brado says in court and totally twists his words. Oh, yeah. This article I've read. But, yeah, this is, come on. Oh, she will not take the test. Well, it's not a matter of will not, Your Honor. This is not about will not. This is about cannot. She cannot take this without physical pain. Her conditions are known to the court. This is not a surprise to anybody that this woman has been shot. It is not a surprise to anybody that this woman has injuries. It is not a surprise to anybody that this woman has trouble breathing. Why is this court, this is me paraphrasing as if I was an attorney in this situation, why is this court refusing to acknowledge her physical limitations? Why is this court refusing to acknowledge that other devices to test blood alcohol level outside of SCRAM are not being offered as a condition of taking that test? Why is she inherently being considered someone that's refusing to take the test instead of this courtroom and you, Your Honor, providing an alternative for her to take that test that allows you to get the test that you require her to take, but also places her in a situation where she can have the test done without any physical pain? Why is this courtroom not allowing this to be on the table? And why is my client, if I'm playing the judge, why is my client now being placed back behind bars because she's being told that she's filing a condition of her release when she's physically unable to take that? Because you will not give her an alternative to adhere to the terms and conditions of her release or home confinement. The court needs medical evidence because apparently it's in dispute for her that Kelsey was shot. My Lord. My Lord. And when I talk, you see, when I talk about what I talk about on my show, I try to find things that upset me and make me passionate that I really do care about. And when I learned about this story, I realized very quickly, oh my God, Spicy Maz is coming back, isn't he? But this is outrageous. And God forbid this happens to anybody else too. I mean, this is absolute madness. This woman's back in jail over this. This is crazy. Let's put her defense fund back in the chat. Her defense fund's in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. If you guys can make a donation to her, please help her out. Unfortunately, Kelsey Fitz Simmons joins the line of people in this state that have been unjustly treated. That even with certain exceptions and medical excuses, legitimate excuses, she's being forced to go through all this. This is not how it should be done. I can tell Olivia, and I'm happy that you're invested in this story because, we need, this is what me and Mike, I talk about with Mike. We need to have as many of our Karen Reed Turtleboy supporters on board with this as possible. And I've always said, every person matters. Every person matters. And every person's involvement matters. And Olivia, you're big time. You're big time. I know you're modest, but you're big time because nobody has the educational, outside of people that are obviously attorneys, nobody has that educational insight to a level as high as you do. And if they do, they're not higher than you. And you're an important person to have following cases like this and speaking on cases because you get the details very quickly. It's great to see it. I saw you the other day, and I think Mike's chat talking about this, and that's great. It's going to be good to see you back on board with this case too. I'm sure you're invested in many other cases I've never heard about in my life, but you're all over the place, Olivia, and that's what's best. You're awesome. You're an absolute blessing to all of this. So yeah, she is our brain queen. She's definitely the brain queen. There's no question about that. She's been great, and she's just able to kind of, like I said, I like fact checking because I don't want to ever be wrong, but I understand that when you do a show like this, you're not always gonna know all. Yeah, we're all important, exactly. I'm not always gonna know the ins and outs of every little matter. There's always gonna be like that moment where I'm gonna be like wrong, slightly wrong, or maybe off on something. So like the way I run my shows is not to be like I'm right all the time. No, I don't like that. I like to be like tell as much as I know, but be open for educational opportunities as well, where someone can say, Mazza, actually, you were wrong on that. Let's correct you. Here's the correction. Okay, perfect. That's how we all learn. We're here to all learn together, right? And that's what a collective movement's all about, is educating one another. And I think that's fantastic. So the judge says this changes everything. So a probation officer, like I said, I was kind of playing the role of an attorney in the courtroom there earlier, and how I would react. Like, alternatives, there's alternatives. A probation officer told the judge that Fitzsimmons remained compliant. So there you go. A probation officer told the judge that Fitzsimmons remained compliant with the terms of her alcohol monitoring, despite failing to initially complete the test at least twice. If she had missed the test, that could represent noncompliance, he explained. Bradel said Fitzsimmons could continue undergoing the required test if the court tolerated her being in pain. Exactly. So the court is not tolerating anything. Miss Fitzsimmons is a defendant. In lieu of incarceration, my order was that she submit to scram. Well, can you please amend the order? If she cannot do that, I need to know that. Can she do that or not? McCarthy said. It is certainly not the court's intention, nor not the court's position, to have Miss Simmons in any pain at all, she had. Well, that is wonderful. Let's do alternative testing. Bradel implored the judge to consider alternatives. Once again, Tim Bradel making sense in court. Tim Bradel always makes sense in court. He always does. He always makes sense in court, doesn't he? He always says exactly what needs to be said. He doesn't need my advice or anybody else's advice. Tim Bradel knows what to do. And he's already saying what I would have said and anybody else would have said. Let's look at alternatives. What are the alternatives here? What can we? She can't do the scram test. What can we do? And Tim Bradel, again, being a intelligent man with very good education, who knows how to vouch for his clients, says, alternatives, Your Honor. Alternatives. He says, I'm going to reread this just to get refreshed on this for all of us. Bradel implored the judge to consider alternatives to the particular mode of testing she ordered. Fitzsimmons is not trying to use this to create a situation where she can go drink alcohol, he added. And this is kind of to Olivia's point earlier, where it's talked about that she doesn't really have a history of drinking that's beknownst to the court, or alcohol is not really a threat, right? So let's give her alternatives. What the hell? She's not trying to create a situation where she can go out and go on drinking and, binge drink all day long and have her mom and dad come home with about a 24-pack of Bud Light and run around the house, party time. I mean, she's not trying to be ridiculous. She's not trying to be a drunken party woman. She's not trying to do that. It's, thank you so much. Anyone here watch Mazza and think he has the best smile? People pay for lips like his. Sorry, way off topic. Thank you so much. I'm flattered by that, Nicole. Thank you. That's fun. Now I'm blushing. I'm like Olivia right now. I'm blushing. Hey, look, I think he's blushing. Another Ninja Turtles quote. All right, I got Ninja Turtle references all day today. All right, so McCarthy, Naaman, the judge, briefly stepped off the bench to consider the evidence. Well, I guess that's a step, right? When she returned, she noted Fitzsimmons had moved to amend her conditions of release twice in 3 days. All right. Neither time did she submit any medical evidence, McCarthy named and said. Well, this is what Olivia is kind of exposing right here. Let's read this first from Olivia. Kelsey hasn't been accused of or charged with any alcohol-related offenses. The fact that alcohol testing as a condition is nonsensical. Exactly. Right. So, thank you, Olivia. So, let's just reread this all over again, right? So, the judge steps off the bench to consider the evidence. She returns to the bench. She notes that Fitzsimmons has moved to amend her conditions of release twice in 3 days because of the pain, right? Then the judge comes back and says neither time did she submit any medical evidence. Yeah, okay, so Turtleboy is postponing tonight's show. I'd imagine he's exhausted. From last night. His voice is shot. I'm sure he's tired. Yeah, I'd imagine he's I imagine he probably spent the majority of the day preparing for that too. And then, then just being totally, you kind of go, it's like a Super Bowl party. You're going all out. You're having a good time, so he'll rest up and they can do the show maybe tomorrow and he'll be good. So he had a great show last night and he deserves to take a day off and enjoy himself and he'll be good. I'm happy for him. Happy he had a great show last night. That was awesome. So let's get back to it here. So someone says once was for the surgery. So when she returned, the judge says, neither time did she submit any medical evidence at all. So no medical evidence was ever submitted. I would argue and contend what medical evidence would really need to be submitted here, and this is Olivia's point a while back in the chat. What medical evidence does she need to provide? What medical evidence is not already known? Nicola says it very plainly here. She was shot. When she was taken to the hospital, they know she was shot. She's had surgery regarding this. What medical evidence is needed to justify that she can't use scram? I don't get it. And that's when people say the fix is in. The judge notes that Kelsey has moved to change her conditions twice in 3 days like it means anything. I'm sorry, but wouldn't it be worse if she put up with the testing for weeks and then raised the motion? Yeah. Oh my goodness. It's just, it's to the Scottish, that comment speaks for itself. This is when you question the judge. You're like, what are you talking about? What do you mean medical evidence is needed? You know that this is a shooting. She was shot. You wonder if this is just blatant ignorance or is it blatant bias? You decide. Jeez. Just days ago, the court concluded that the condition of remaining alcohol-free and submitting to scram monitoring was necessary to ensure the safety of the community. Okay? The court concluded that the condition was being alcohol-free and submitting to scram. All right, well, why not offer an alternative? In other words, let me ask you this question. Let's ask this question. If the court already knew that she was shot, then why subject her to scram in the first place? Is that because that's what we always do in this courtroom, Mr. Yannetti or Mr. Jackson? Is that the kind of mentality? Well, everybody that has alcohol-related matters submits to scram and scram alone because that's their preferred method of doing it. That's what it is. That's probably, that's probably their universal method of doing things. They submit it to scram and off they go. You're okay. You're released on scram. That's your test. That's it. They didn't want to dig deeper and offer her an alternative, offer her an exception. They didn't need to submit any medical evidence. When they first put her on scram, they already knew what her conditions prior to her release. Just days ago, after reviewing everything, that conclusion remains unchanged regardless of Fitzsimmons' claimed physical limitations. After reviewing everything, that conclusion remains unchanged regardless of Fitzsimmons' claimed physical limitations. McCarthy Neiman concluded that Fitzsimmons cannot abide by the condition of being monitored by Scram. That is, well, there's no fucking doubt about that. Nobody's contesting that. But you want to put a woman back in jail because she's unable to complete a test. I am speechless. Without this condition, which ensures she does not consume any alcohol, the court cannot ensure the safety of the community. Like Olivia said earlier, there's legitimately no evidence that shows that her alcohol levels have ever been a threat to the community in her history in any way, shape, or form. She said, ordering Fitzsimmons held without bail. Wow. So you're not going to consider any alternatives. Her attorney, Tim Bradel, asked to address the court, as you'd expect, and I don't blame him. When he was not given the opportunity to do so, he objected. Imagine this. So he asked to address the court. The judge, he's objected by the prosecutor. When he asked the judge to stay her order pending an appeal to the Supreme Judicial Court. There's one thing certain judges in this state don't like is when certain attorneys try to get the SJC involved. Well, he makes a good point. He wasn't even given the opportunity to do so. So, I see here. Wait a second. I misread this. Okay, my mistake. Bradel asked to address. I must have misread this. Bradel asked to address the court when he was not given the opportunity to do so. He objected. Okay, I misread that. It wasn't the prosecutor. Bradel objected, asking McCarthy Nahum to stay her order pending an appeal to the SJC. Okay, now I got it right. I misstated it before. Okay. So he asked for this to be, he felt he should have been given an opportunity to address the court. He wasn't. So he objected and asked her to stay her order pending. Well, what they should have done, in my opinion, what should have happened here is the judge would have said, okay, fine. We're going to send her back home. We're going to give her an alternative alcohol test. And that's it. That's where this is going. That's where this should go. That's exactly how it should have been done. Okay. We know she has physical issues, whatever. Oh, boy, really? Bradel and the judge used to work together in the Suffolk County DA's office. Very interesting. That's interesting. All right, so Fitzsimmons can be heard crying during a recording of the hearing obtained by Mass Live. I don't blame her. There are other alternatives. Here you go. Bradel says it here. He makes sense. There are other alternatives Your Honor can accomplish. Bradel is heard saying before the recording cuts out, Bradel has since filed a motion for reconsideration according to the court docket. So even if the judge knows that she'll eventually overrule her original decision, they already got her in jail for a few more days, worst case. Fitzsimmons is charged with assault and battery with a dangerous weapon in connection with the incident on June 30th, during which police say she pointed a gun at a fellow officer. Through her lawyer, Fitzsimmons has denied doing so and said she tried to take her own life that night. As she left the courthouse Monday, Fitzsimmons, flanked by her lawyer, said simply, the truth will come out. On June 30th, this is just a summary. A hearing on the restraining order is slated for later this month. The judge refused to hear Bradel at the end. That's unbecoming of a judge, in my opinion. Probably most of our opinions. Well, Fitzsimmons was packing up clothes for her son. Police say she reached, this is back in June. Well, Fitzsimmons was packing up clothes for her son. Police say she reached for a gun and attempted to fire it at one of the responding officers. She was shot in the chest by the officer and taken to the General Hospital, Mass General Hospital, where she remained for more than a month. At the bail hearing on Monday, Bradel asked McCarthy Nahum to defer the order requiring Fitzsimmons to stay away from her son to the probate court. That's another thing that should have been done. The order on her seeing her son should have gone to probate court. Probate court should have handled that. So this is twice now that Bradel has argued one matter should go to the SJC and another matter should go to the probate court regarding her visitation rights with her own child. The judge declined to do so, but said she would amend the order if needed. Bradel has called the claims from Fitzsimmons' fiancé self-serving. Her world was taken away from her because a guy went to the probate court, filled out a piece of paper full of self-serving allegations and got her baby. He told reporters outside the courthouse, Kelsey is very committed to showing this court, showing the judge that she's fine, that she's in control, and that she's not a danger. The only thing that's been aggravating her postpartum depression is having her baby taken away. Great point. We're going to do everything we can to reunite Kelsey with her baby, Bradel added. It's insane. It's insane, ladies and gentlemen, what goes on in this state, that this has happened. It's crazy stuff. It's all crazy stuff, and it's unfortunate this goes on. But that gets to the point of what we can do. What can we do to help her? What can we do to assist her? If we don't like something, we can work to change things, right? And that's kind of been our mission through Karen Reed, through Turtleboy, through many other matters. We've always worked to bring upon change. We've always worked to bring upon difference. And if we don't like something, we've worked to support those people in a situation that we don't like, we don't agree with. Well, we don't like certain judges or we don't agree with certain judges, we are able to participate in helping people like Aiden Carney and Karen Reed, Mike Crawford, and Kelsey Fitz Simmons when their backs are against the wall. And the way we can do that is by donating to their defense fund. The Give, Send, Go for Kelsey Fitz Simmons is now in the chat. Once again, Dr. Turtleboy Aiden Carney's defense fund is pinned to the top of the chat, and the Young Jerks defense fund is also pinned to the chat as well. Please assist those that you're able to, and please participate in any way, shape, or form that you can. I'll be continuing to cover Karen Reed, Turtleboy, and Kelsey Fitzsimmons, which I've just begun covering for the first time on this show. I think that we can do a lot of great things here, and I hope that we can get the best result for Kelsey Fitzsimmons in the end. Presently, she is sitting in jail, and Tim Bradel, her attorney, who also represents Turtleboy, as you know, is doing everything he can to get her out. But I think together we've accomplished a lot in the past few years, and we'll continue to accomplish that. I think what's most important is that we stick together and that we back each other up and continue to support one another. I appreciate everybody's time for tuning into MazzaMedia today. Please like and subscribe this video and look for future episodes of this channel. This is the first show I did in 13 days. Just very busy. I wish I had been at the Wilbur Theater yesterday just due to scheduling constraints and all that. I wasn't able to make it. And, fully thankful that everyone had a great time last night, had an awesome time, and did wonderfully. So all that stated, ladies and gentlemen, yes, I've looked into the PD and the chief. The chief, there was a complaint against him 2 years ago. Yeah, I looked into that. There was a couple female officers that had an issue with that Chief Gray. That's a wild story, the background there. We'll be delving into that as time goes on. But yeah, that's a good message for everybody here, for everybody to look into this stuff, ladies and gentlemen. And all right, so that's my show. I'm getting a little tired right now after 3.5. I think this might have been the longest show I've ever done by myself ever today, but I'm kind of getting a little fatigued, but I got some other things I got to do and other things I got to do today. So glad everybody had a great time at the Wilbur Theater last night. Enjoyed your time there. That's fantastic. And ladies and gentlemen, have a great evening from MazzaMedia. I am Mark of MazzaMedia. Please subscribe. And then the pathetic pitch to gain subscribers. That's okay. But guys, have a great night. Have a great weekend. It's been 3.5 hours practically. It's been awesome being with you guys. And free Karen Reed, free Turtleboy, and free Kelsey Fitzsimmons, and get Karen Reed back her phones. And just prayers are out to Charlie Kirk and his family right now, and everybody in the United States for prayer and protection from any kind of level of assassinations, massacres, murdering, anything that goes on in our country. So thank you guys very much. Have a great weekend. Patriots are back tomorrow, 1 p.m. against the Miami Dolphins. I actually got to figure out what I'm going to cook tomorrow for that game, so we'll see what happens. But take care, guys. Great seeing you guys. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Olivia Niles, Scott McGinnis, shout out to you guys and everybody else. And that's it. Take care, guys. Have a great afternoon. Take care. All right. Bye-bye.